right. What's up, Derek?
What's up, man? How's Texas doing? You guys
Texas is good. How's Texas doing? You tell me. Yeehaw!
Okay, well, how's Mexico doing? All right, we're trickling in back from lunch, John. We're ready for another jam-packed afternoon. Everybody at home, thank you for joining us. We had, John, I don't know if we've said this yet, but we've had 22 countries tuning into this stream over the last days. 22 tuned in, getting this message. So that's so powerful. Just remember that we are not alone. We're all over the world. Today, we're here to learn about building parallel systems, parallel networks, and we got Paul Wheaton, David Rodriguez, myself, and John. There's still a lot more to come, so stay tuned. John, back to you guys.
All righty. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Mr. Derek. If you guys find out how many countries are represented down there at your event in Mexico, I'd love to hear that. I bet it's a lot.
Yeah, we'll get a count.
All right, cool. Okay, so you heard what Derek said. We're here to learn about Building 7. It collapsed in 6.5 seconds on its own footprint. It was a 47-story skyscraper. Taking it back to the roots. All right, let's go ahead and get on with the show. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in. I want to encourage folks, if you're watching online, on Odyssey, on World Health Council, shout out to the World Health Council. We are very excited to have you guys promoting this event. I want to encourage you to share the links. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your skeptical stepbrother or uncle. It makes a difference when you share this stuff, the more people we reach. We've been reaching a lot of people today, and today's been going really well. Super excited. I also want to encourage you, if you don't remember, Derek laid out a goal, right? We heard about goals from Mark Moss. He was like, how many of you guys are focused on freedom and not focused on the problem, but focused on what you want? And everyone was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, I don't know if he expected that response, but that's how we roll the Greater Reset crew. Derek, not Garrett. Who the heck is Garrett? Derek laid out a goal of reaching 30,000 people on the Freedom Cells website by the end of this transmission. Right now, there's about 27,000. That means we need to gain, anybody do the math? Can you do the math in your head?
John.
3,000.
35,000 right now.
We're at 35,000. Well, what was the goal you laid out?
We need 45.
40? You just bumped it. Yeah, he's been listening to some Grant Cardone. He's 10Xing it. All right. Okay. Thank you. I stand corrected. We're at 35 right now, and I thought it was 40, but now it's 45 is the goal. By the end of the stream, you know, the cool thing about making big, ambitious, sexy goals. Dad, my daughter's under the table. What's she doing under there? The thing about making big, ambitious, sexy goals is it gets you excited, it gets you motivated, it gets you asking questions such as, what do I actually need to do in order to pull this off? For example, what if I just 10x the revenue of my business? What does that actually look like? Well, we may need a new facility. Actually, we just upgraded our facility. Have you out there sometime. We may need to hire new staff. We may need to improve our systems. We may need to make sure that we have this and that in order, because as we expand, it's going to create all sorts of problems. It just changes the way that you think. But the other benefit of having huge, ambitious goals is even if you come up a little short, you're still in a better place than you were before. You guys know the 10X goals. They lived on those 10X goals. They took that message to heart, moved out of a statist jurisdiction to the great state of Texas. Give them a Texas welcome. Yeehaw! All right, so we need your help in order to grow this network, right? We laid the foundation. We got a lot of people that are helping with the infrastructure, but it's up to each and every one of you in the audience, you in the online audience, you in Mexico, to help us spread the word, especially if you're in this room and you're not yet signed up on the website. The website is freedomcells.org, freedomcells.org. We have a big, sexy, ambitious mission, which is to replace government and mega corporations as a means of organizing society and fulfilling our common wants and needs, okay? There could be a vacuum if there's no government. We're going to replace it with mutually beneficial voluntary associations, with peaceful people doing peaceful things with one another. That's what it's all about. But we need each and every one of you to make a commitment to step outside of your comfort zone, to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, to flip the introverted into the extroverted, and to talk to people. Oh, no. I know some folks are a little shy, and that's okay. But if we're going to change the world, we got to break out of that shell, and we got to talk to people. So I'm calling on each and every one of you to carry on the work that we've started in the Freedom Cell Network and find other people. You don't have to be an expert on what it's all about. All you got to do is tell people, hey, I'm part of this really cool group of people. We see all the problems in the world, but we're focused on creating a better world. Gardening, pulling our kids out of government school, hanging out, socializing, starting businesses, trading with one another. Would you like to be involved? Come on down. Drink the Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid is green. Kratom. Okay. All right. Without further ado, I want to introduce our next presenter. He spoke at the Exit and Build Land Summit. He's one of our big headlining speakers. This guy is an incredible person, giant personality. He is probably one of the leading influencers, doers. It's not just influencing. That's one thing. I could post online, look at me, la, 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 la. But he's actually doing and building some really cool stuff. And I would say he's one of the leading voices when it comes to permaculture today. And we are super excited to have him. But today he's not going to be speaking expressly about permaculture. He's going to talk about this really, really cool school and system and workshop and intentional community that he's created. Because today is all about parallel systems and agorism. So without further ado, let's bring up Mr. Paul Wheaton, the Duke of Permaculture.
Yay, me! Hi, everybody. I was standing right there just a few months ago.
We hope you'll be back soon. We'd love to have you again.
It was awesome. I'd love to do it again. It was gobs of fun.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, we're going to let you take it away. We'll pull your presentation up as well. So thank you so much for joining us there, Mr. Paul. We're excited to hear what you got to say.
So, yeah, I need my presentation so I can look at it and be able to tell you what I'm talking about. Oh, look, now I can see it. All right. How do that's good enough. All right. I had to look up what agorism is. It's like, what do they want me to present on? And apparently Rebecca said, all your stuff. And so let's see if this works. Boom. Yes, my stuff. So this is what I was asked to present on. These are each topics that I can present on or have presented on in the past. But we decided to narrow it down to these 5. And so this is going to be, we'll cover each one of these here in a moment, but 2 of these things are things that I presented on last spring at the Exit and Build Summit. So you can see all the details there. Now, I think a lot of people, they start with the question, how do I make epic coin so I could buy my permaculture dream? And I kind of feel like that is the wrong question to ask. But I mean, there are still people that'll do that. They will travel that path, but that sounds like a 20 to 40 year long path. And I hope that we can come up with stuff to make it much, much shorter. And we do have ways that are going to be a lot better at non-monetary ways that are outside the normal system, things that are even far more effective. So, but if you're interested in making epic coin and how do you make big money with permaculture, I do have presentations on how to make the big bucks with permaculture, but the shortcut is go look at the life of Sepp Holzer. And so for those of you that, you could write that name down or take a picture of this screen or whatever you want, but this guy is making millions of dollars per year from 110 acres. And that's with his old property. And now he has a new property, but that's there's a lot to say about Sepp Holzer, but stepping away from that, let's try a better question. How do I arrive at my permaculture dream with or without epic coin? Now, for those of you that have read my book, Building a Better World in Your Backyard, instead of being angry at bad guys, it has an entire chapter dedicated to ways that you could build epic coin in a lot of different systems that, such as touching on early retirement extreme, a book written by Jacob Lundfesker, or Mortgage Free by Rob Roy. These techniques and combining them together with a bunch of passive income streams, that's all in my book, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So how do I get there with or without epic coin? We're going to kind of explore without the epic coin. And I think that the dumb fuck position is going to be property is too expensive. I'll never be able to buy anything good. Therefore, I'm out. I can't do it. And it's like, don't go down that path. We'll get you there. And then, of course, the quote of the day, You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that's exactly what we're going to do in these 5 pieces. First, to understand GERT, we first have to talk about Ferd. And so these are 2 fictitious people, Ferd and GERT. This is, there's a little image of my book in the lower right corner, Building a Better World in Your Backyard Instead of Being Angry at Bad Guys. Ferd works 45 hours a week, and he commutes a half an hour each way. He has to spend a certain amount of time acquiring his food, whether it's, going to restaurants and waiting to be served, or going to the grocery store and waiting in line to buy his stuff, or whatever it is that he does. There's time involved in that. And while it seems stupid to point that out, there's a reason why I'm mentioning it now, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But he has to buy all of his food. That's the way normal people do it. They go to their worky job, they get the money to go out and buy their food. At the end of the month, we're going to say that he has about $200 of disposable income each month that he spends on fun things. And by fun things, I think a lot of people might refer to it as attempting to anesthetize the way that they live their life. Their life is shy of optimal. And so what do they do to entertain themselves and add something back to their soul? He has about $800 in the bank, not a huge amount. So what would Ferd do with $1 million? If I gave Ferd $1 million, I think we know what he's going to quit his job. And then, if he's not aware of this stuff that we're talking about now, he's probably going to go and try and buy a home, pay off his debts, buy things that will buy his future security so he doesn't have to work anymore. But he'll probably be back at work in a year, maybe 2. And now the story of GERT, which is really what we want to talk about. And this is an article I wrote, 10 years ago, maybe. And this has become not only a core piece of the book, but also so many other things that we talk about. We keep talking about GERTitude, trying to be like GERT, so this is a frame of mind. And so it doesn't cost anything. It's totally free. And if this is your frame of mind, because I think it's a great question to ask, is this where you want to go? So GERT has a few acres. She eats the food that she grows. She works 50 hours a week during the harvest, but the rest of the year, maybe 10 hours a week feeding herself, just like how Ferd would spend a certain number of hours per week feeding himself. So, but GERT's eating dominantly, probably close to exclusively food that she's grown herself or has acquired herself off of her land. She rarely drives because almost everything she wants is where she is. Her life is so fulfilled and so complete and so wonderful where she is. She just doesn't feel like driving. Now, I'm painting a picture here, and I'm hoping that you'll do your best to try and work with me. She doesn't want to go. She might leave her property once a month, once every 3 months, just because, she still wants to go out and do things. But for the most part, not really. Most of everything that she enjoys is right here. I wish to, and everything in my book, to pursue the most luxuriant life you can. I want GERT to pursue the most luxuriant life she can, and she can use that rig of hers as much as she wants. It's just that she doesn't like to do it very often. She sells her excess crops to her neighbors or to whoever stops by or whatever. It's not a big deal in her life. So she gets a few bucks here and there by selling excess. She makes about, on average, $300 a month of disposable income. She's got $4,000 in the bank, and she just doesn't spend a lot of money because she has everything she needs. So money just sort of accumulates. Now, here's the important thing. Here's the important difference between Ferd and GERT. I'm going to say that if I give Gert $1 million, she changes nothing. She doesn't do anything differently. So is it fair to suggest that Gert is a permaculture millionaire? So that if she had $1 million, she would do nothing different than what she's already doing. Is it fair to call her a permaculture millionaire? Okay. So as we pursue Gertitude, how do we define it? Is Gert's life a life of luxuriance and abundance to the standards of some? I imagine most of the people that are listening to me gab right now, it is. This is the destination, or this is a destination, or similar to the destination that you're pursuing, regardless of the amount of financial inputs to her or your life. Okay, so that was part one, and I'm going to move on to the second part now. And I want to ask people to contemplate living in community for a moment. There's upsides and there's downsides. So the upsides, cheap to get in and easy to leave. You can, if it's not for you, you can go. You can just go in, try it out, and then if you don't like it, you can go. But if you do like it, you can stay. It's easy to come and go. About half the cost for double the luxury. Usually the property is glorious and magnificent, and there's so many perks, and the cost to be there is far, far, far less than if you tried to do it all on your own. If there's 20 people in the community and you want to buy a new tractor, kind of like you get a new tractor for 95% off. But if you're all by yourself, you got to bear the burden of the entire price of that new tractor. And if you pick a good community and you get started in a good community, every day is a soul building day. And life is just so much better than anything that you can find on Netflix or whatever your favorite streaming service is. All that stuff, it's like you just end up not ever looking at it because your day-to-day life is so much more glorious. And I think one of the analogies that we use is about pizza delivery. And the thing is that in this scenario, then nobody gets delivery pizza because there's always somebody making pizza every few days. There's oodles of pizza in your community, and you never had, and it arrives even before you realize you're tasted up for pizza. So nobody orders pizza. Why would you? The pizza here is better than the stuff that you order. Now, there is, of course, the massive downside, which under most community scenarios, the downside is far bigger than all the upsides added together. And I want to say that the upside list goes on and on and on, and the downside list is just so giant that it's like it drowns all the upsides. And so that is the never-ending psychotic drama. So let's see. Therefore, we need to eliminate 98% of the drama and maybe bump up the good stuff. That's our goal. That's what we want to try to do. So when I was presenting at Exit and Build this last spring, shortly before I presented, we got to hear from Diana Leaf Christian. And when she presented, she pointed out that the current recipes for community have a 95% failure rate. So the thing that John and Rebecca invited me out to for Exit and Build to present on was what I call permaculture thorns. And so this is like attempting to come up with a new community recipe. And so I wrote this draft book years ago because I needed to say these things, and I put it up, and I don't know why it is, but so many different people have just needed to download this book, and I try to put a high price tag on it to discourage people because it's not done. The book is a work in progress, and it's become like my number one book or something. Whenever people come here, they want to talk about permaculture thorns more than all that giant list of other things to talk about. So it's available, And apparently people like it so much that I was asked to present on it and Exit and Build. And if you go out to our link at Exit and Build, it'll direct you to how to go and get that stuff and be able to see the presentation that I gave about this, which was I thought it was really good. It seemed like it was very well received. I had a great time doing it. Okay. The book is broken down into these 5 parts. And it's kind of like a series of essays, and I'm trying to explore different things that work and don't work, and that sort of stuff. But the point of the book is to try to bring you to where I am in trying to design a new community. And apparently people groove on it. All right, so design ideas for the future. What if there are thousands of central leader communities? Now, most of the current community designs are not central leader, and that's one of the biggest changes. And so it's kind of like, how do you make central leader work? Well, it turns out in this day and age, there are ways for a central leader to convey what their philosophy set is, dominantly through podcasts or YouTube videos or whatever, but they can put out so much information that when you go shopping through thousands of different potential communities, that you might narrow it down to a dozen, and then you can start pawing through the information that those central leaders provide and see which one might be worth trying out. Now, keep in mind, you can be agile and you can pop around from one to another. Oh, right. The challenge is mostly far too much drama. Next piece out of 5, the skip book. So when you're looking for land, this is a place to possibly start. The skip book is a list of about 1,000 different projects that you can do, document, and can be automatically verified for free. So you can get all of the skip stuff for free. Permies.com/skip. It's all there, everything for free. And the thing is that when you have accomplished 100 or 200 of these things, then a bunch of elderly landowners would like to talk to you. And so they are desperately looking for people that they find to be worthy and are interested in inheriting land, because they'd like to pass their land on to you. They just need to know that you're into homesteading and that you're interested in this kind of thing, and that you're basically, that they just want to have confidence that you're not going to just take their land and turn around and sell it. So that you're going to, so they've put their heart and soul and their entire life into doing this beautiful homesteading thing. And they just need to pass this on to somebody that's going to continue doing that, rather than just sell it off to somebody who's going to bulldoze it. So we had a bunch of people that loved it so much, they asked us to put it into a book. I felt a little weird. I didn't think anybody would buy a book for something that we make available on the internet for free. But a few thousand people did. So by all means, grab the book if you like, or just go look at the free stuff. As part of this, we've got this concept of Otis. And Otis is kind of an amalgam of dozens, pushing 100 different people that we have talked to that have land and are looking for somebody. And so in the book, we kind of made this amalgam person, Otis. Otis has 2 houses on his 200-acre property. He's got a tractor, a good truck. He's got all kinds of stuff. He's got all the acres. He has a barn, a good barn, all kinds of good stuff that he has created over his lifespan, and he wants it to continue as somebody that's keen on homesteading. So we have, I think at this moment in time, we have more than 24 Otises who are standing by, waiting to give their offers to the first people who reach something around PEP 2 or PEP 3 certification. More about that at permies.com/skip. all of the 1,000 different projects are divided into 22 different aspects. And so there's, in fact, we have a thing called PEP 1, where basically you complete about 80 different little projects and get them verified. And it'll be from 16 of the 22 different aspects. But there's a quick list to kind of get you warmed up for it. 1,000 different projects. Okay. 5 levels, 4 certifications. Otis, most of the time Otis is looking for PEP 4 certification, and PEP 4 could take you 4 years. PEP 1, we think, could take the better part of a month. Maybe certain people could get it done in as little as 2 weeks. But PEP 4, we think, is going to be a solid 4-year program. Deep Roots. So here's number 4 out of 5. Deep Roots. This is a program that we have here at my place in Montana. So $25,000 for an acre. That's rent for life. And it can be terminated by either party at any time. And so I think for a lot of people, they're going to say, oh, hell no. If I could get kicked out at any time, why the hell would I ever go? No, I'm out. I'm out. And it's like, I'm glad we got that worked out. That's delightful, easy peasy. And then at the same time, there are several people that have spent a lot of time listening to my podcasts, watching my videos, reading my books, whatever, and they feel confident that it'll be delightful. And so they've ponied up the coin and they live here now. And so for very few people, this is an option. And so I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it is going to be for a few. Now, if you're the least bit nervous, then you need to learn more about this central leader to decide whether or not it'll work for you. All the materials that I have available to help you with that. Now, here's the one that I like. Basically, we've got a program here called the Permaculture Bootcamp. And in fact, before coming in on doing this, they all said that they wanted to come in here and stand in the back of the office and look over my shoulder as I'm giving this presentation, because I think they're watching it in the other room. But anyway, the thing is that if you spend 2 years participating in the boot camp, so you're going to be doing gardening and natural building and all of the homesteading things and maintaining vehicles or using those vehicles to do fun and interesting stuff. I mean, several of them post pictures every day of the stuff that they're working on, so you can get a good idea of what all they're doing, and interact, of course, with everything that's here already, which I think is pretty cool stuff. If you're into permaculture, I think you'll find a lot of the stuff that we have here now very enjoyable. But if you spend 2 years doing this, 1 year doing the basics and 1 year in a leadership role, then you'll get an acre of deep roots. And so the program I just and we've had 2 people who've completed the program, and they have their deep roots right now. And there are 2 more people that are past the 1 year mark now that are looking at possibly going with deep roots. So this is a program that we have that I'm very excited about. Love having more people out here to be part of this. We've had a lot of people from the Exit and Build Summit last spring come out here for like a week or a month and jump in and build this experience of being here. So I'm hoping that a few of you will make the decision to come out here too. Now, we also have a program where people can rent one of our tiny structures for a month or a week or a few months even, and then be in and out of the boot camp as much or as little as they like. We've got 2 people here now that are doing that. Some pictures of the different kinds of projects and things going on here at the Permaculture Boot Camp. There's our solar food dehydrator. We've got a new one that's right up next to it. That's a solar food dehydrator with rocket assist, with like a rocket mass heater assist. A lot of people, this is their first time driving a tractor. Natural building. There's a sample of our junk pole fence. Canning. Right now, we have, during the winter, we have what we call half-assed holidays. There's 2 half-assed holidays this week. We did Prenicky Day, where we try to build things using Prenicky's techniques, and Quilting Day. And then today, I think, is Fermentation Day. And so we've got a guy from California here now who's like running point. He's an expert fermenter. He came up and is in the SEPR program just to help guide the boots through the fermentation process. I don't know, lots of, try to look at the pictures to see like what to talk about. For the roundwood timber framing, we do a lot of roundwood timber framing. And we have a natural building. We do a lot with cob and with rock. We have a lot of rock to work with. Hugel culture, we do oodles of hugel culture. Soil sample tool, we do a lot with that. And then there's some of the timber framing going on. Rocket mass heaters, I think we have more than a dozen active rocket mass heaters, 3 rocket cooktops, some rocket water heaters, things of that nature. And then you can see the logs being peeled. Gardening. Oh, for everybody that's here in the boot camp during the warmer season, half a day every day is spent on gardening. There's our teepee. Sometimes it needs maintenance. Oh, and we've got all these fruit trees started from seed. More construction, more building things, natural building and stuff. People. Okay, does that smell? I don't know. Was that agorism? It might have been agorism, but does it smell like parallel systems? But I think this is my last slide. I'm done. Whew, how am I doing on time? Did I go too fast? This is the questions part, right? Oh no, am I by myself? I can't hear anything.
Hey.
There he is.
Hey, Mr. Paul. Give it up for Paul Wheaton, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Mr. Paul, we got about 5 minutes before your time is up. First, I just want to thank you because I see you as a solutionary. And the whole skip thing, right? Yeah, solutionary. The whole revolution thing, when you look at the word revolution, the root of the word is revolve, which is like going around in circles. So it's like, let's throw the bums out, and then we become the bums. And then we're going to get thrown out in a generation or two. And now the bums are coming back around. La, 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 la. We're trying to just evolve past all this BS. But I was really grateful to bring you to the X and Build Land Summit specifically because of this SKIP program, because I appreciate in you that you recognized a problem. There's a lot of older folks that have put their heart and soul, resources, time, energy into these properties. And when they pass, their kids sell it right out from underneath them, or the government takes it. And then there's a lot of youngsters that don't have a lot of money, but they want to do permaculture. They want to do the homesteading, land maintenance thing, and you bridge the two together. So I just want to encourage people to take Paul's lead and not see things in terms of problems, rather see the flip side, which is a solution. So thank you, Paul.
That came about in an interesting way. I had dozens of people with land trying to convince me to, can you tell me about somebody who can take this over when I'm gone? And it's like, there's so many of them. And then at the same time, youngsters, they're like, well, I want to be a homesteader. Should I go to college? What do I do? How do I get to homesteading from where I am now? And I'm currently debt free, and I have a powerful interest in homesteading. And it's like, it just seems perfectly natural to connect those two people together. But of course, what the people with the land need is they just need to know. They just need to utterly know that this person is worthy. They need proof. And so that's what SKIP is like giving these youth the ability to provide the proof to satisfy these elderly landowners.
I love it. Another thing I like about you, Mr. Paul, this is Kiss Paul's Ass session here.
Yay! Bring it on!
How much more time do we have for this? I appreciate you because from what I gather, you're largely apolitical. You don't really care too much what's going on in the news. You're not left. You're not right. You don't even bother with the libertarian or agorist or anarchist label. You're just too busy building cool stuff.
Is Jack Spirko there? I think
Jack's here. Where is he?
Jack could probably spend an hour defining who I am. And every time I read what Jack says I am confused at what those things mean. But yeah, I don't know. I have like an oil and water kind of aversion to most of that stuff. It just sounds like spin. It all sounds like spin to me. And it's like, that doesn't sound like growing a garden. That doesn't sound like building a home. That sounds like something to make somebody naughty, to make them more money somehow. And so I just kind of tune it out. And then Jack tells me about how, no, I'm doing something. And I don't understand what that means. So, but Jack's awesome. So I kind of figure like he's probably knows what he's talking about, and I should learn who I am.
I think you know who you are pretty well. Let's give it up for Paul Wheaton, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Thank you so much. There you go, guys. It's just all about building, doing, creating. Let's leave the labels at the door, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And I think it's pretty clear. You know, another thing too, like we don't necessarily need to lay the blame at groups or people, although we should lay the blame at the institution of government. But what is government? It's like not even a thing. It's something that exists in our mind only. It's not a physical thing that you could point to. I mean, you could point to the Capitol building downtown Austin or the Washington, D.C., but statism really is in our head. And I have a feeling our next presenter, I'm not going to introduce him. I'm not going to steal old Mexico and Derek's thunder there, but our next presenter is on this wavelength too. So let's bring up Mexico there. How you doing, Derek? We can't hear you there, buddy. He looks like he's totally animated. Can you hear us? Hey, Derek, we can't hear you. It says that you're muted on StreamYard.
Ramiro?
There he is. There he is.
Thank you
All
for
right,
that,
go ahead,
brother.
Derek.
All right, so what I was saying is, when we're talking about building parallel systems, it's important to also think about the most important and valuable resource, at least in my mind. Anybody have an idea what that is? The kids, exactly. Because a big part of their plan and for the future for this great reset is obviously indoctrinating the children with certain ideas and certain messages, and maybe even creating some rifts between the older generations. You just don't get it, mom and dad. We shouldn't drive anymore. We're destroying the planet. We should just give up our rights. You just don't understand. It's your generation's fault, right? This stuff is happening, all kinds of propaganda. So it's never been more important to build systems and alternatives to the education systems. I have 6 nieces and nephews. My brother and sister do not homeschool or unschool or forest school or world school. They do the public school thing, but they're also there and trying to work with their kids and get to know them and understand, what's in their minds. Our next speaker is doing some really amazing work in a lot of areas, but he's going to talk to us about homeschooling and so much more. Please give a big round of applause to David Rodriguez, everybody.
Thanks, buddy. Lights up, please. How many of you can see the poison that the government schools are putting into the children? Yes? How many of you would like to talk about solutions, real solutions for the children right now? Yes? I said, how many of you want to talk about real solutions for the children right now? My name is David James Rodriguez. It's such an honor to be with you, and that is the title of my talk today. Education Solutions, 3 ways to empower children, parents with voluntary learning. I'm so honored to be with you. There's no place in the world I'd rather be than right here in Texas, Mexico, online. You guys know you're the visionaries of the planet, don't you? Yes? So much respect for you. And before I begin, I think we should acknowledge the organizers, the other speakers, the staff, the volunteers, the sponsors. Hold on, not yet. Because you know how much effort it is to do something like this? So much. And a lot of effort for you guys to come here too. So just as equally important are the attendees, you guys. So let's give it up for John Bush, Miriam, Rebecca, a whole team. Give it up for them and you guys for coming out right now. Myra and Bella did this. Amazing. So, since we're going to spend a few minutes together, is it okay if I tell you a little bit about myself? Yes? Thank you. My name is David James Rodriguez. I was born in a very small town in Northern California called Mount Shasta. It's called the root chakra of the earth, I found out. I'm a principal of Valor Academy, where I focus on accelerated high school graduations and apprenticeships. I also do homeschool coaching and homeschool leader, and I'm the publisher of The Underground History of American Education by John Taylor Gatto, and also the director of the Gatto Movement. The Gatto Movement is an acronym which John gave to me before he passed away, which means get all the thinkers out for schooling. I'm also the host of the Education Options TV and Freedom Lover Show. So that's enough about me. Let's get back to you. And where I begin, we got to get back to basics, okay? So this whole pandemic, this whole intergenerational organized crime syndicate, which some people call the government, has been going on for a long time, okay? And so initially, I was very anxious about trying to solve some of these things. And we have a group in Santa Cruz when I lived there called the Santa Cruz Volunteers. They're in this lockdown. Good at Santa Cruz Volunteers? And we started to realize that government was illegitimate. Before I get into that, let's get back to basics. So what is an education? And feel free, we'll go back and forth if you like in the comments or here. Feel free to shout it out when I ask a question, because we found out that I have some answers, but you guys have answers too. So this is a conversation, and we start with education. What is education? Let me give you my definition. An education is what you do to yourself to create a good life. Now, this is different than schooling. As I mentioned, John Taylor Gatto, he said there's the distance between education and schooling are so far, they're not even close. And my definition of schooling, which I stole kind of from Gatto, which was schooling is what other people do to you for their benefit. So this school system is indoctrinating our children into the religion of statism. It is unacceptable, and we are here to change it, yes? Now, I love the Buckminster Fuller quote, which says, you never change reality by trying to fix it. You got to create a new model that makes the old model what? Obsolete. All right, a little bit louder here, okay? We got to raise our energy, because anything we're trying to do in the world takes energy, right? And so we're going to talk about that here today. So that's my definition of education. So what's the purpose of education? Anybody? Very good. Yes, you guys are right. My definition, the purpose of education is to create a good life. And they don't ask me those questions. I went to public school for 12 years and got a business degree from business university, and it was a huge waste of time. But guess what? I found out I'm on my own journey, and I have to go through that, because just like Dale Bigtree said the other day, we are fulfilling our purpose. We are finding our destiny, and that's what's happening right now. Give it up for finding your destiny. So these types of questions are very important. Purpose of education. What is an education? We got to have these conversations, because my mom is a retired public school teacher. She's a very loving woman. Hey, Mom, love you, Mom and Dad. And I have family members in the school system now, working, teachers and principals. They're loving people, but they don't know that the whole system came from Prussia, Germany, a long time ago, specifically to create obedient clerks, soldiers, and consumers, slaves. That's right. Yeah, consumers. Buying all this stuff, buying all these things outside of us, because what's happening is that the real awakening is happening inside. And so let's get into some of the content here, because I get so excited, because anytime around people who understand they own themselves, anytime around people that love freedom, I get so jacked up. And that's why some of the people I was meeting this last 2 days is, are you always excited like this? I said, yeah, man, I'm excited, dude. I love to wake up in the morning, because I activate my inner child again. I activate that power that I had when I was a young kid. They try to squeeze it out of me, but they didn't get it. They squeeze it down a little bit. Yeah, come on, the inner child. Let's hear it. And even in the activism stuff that I do, you know, I got arrested for not wearing a mask in the post office. It's on video. That's an ongoing saga. But I found out, guess what? Free people don't ask for freedom. We exercise our freedom. Give it up for exercising your freedom. Okay? You see, that's the energy. That's a vibration. That's a frequency that is rising now. And just so y'all know, this is worldwide. They say you got 22 countries, 30,000, 45,000 people. This is the very beginning, okay? Freedom is a new concept. Hey, 1776, what was that about? That was declaring your freedom. That was not asking permission. That was saying, hey, King George, we don't like these taxes. We don't like what you're doing to our house. Here's a letter. We are free. You got that? Bye-bye. Same thing with Magna Carta 2015, right? I start to realize where I am in history and say, wow, this is very exciting. Charles Dickens was right. It is the best of times. It is the worst of times. So interesting. I start to see that's what's happening right now in 2023. Okay, so voluntary learning. Number one, voluntary schools. Yes, they do exist. There are schools that don't mandate attendance, mandate curriculum, and require permission to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water. What are these schools? Well, mine's one of them, Valor Academy, I mentioned, early high school graduation, apprenticeships. My school, the philosophy is that the world is the classroom, and anything you can learn from can be a teacher. This can be books, films, movies, courses, events, meditation, spiritual life, whatever you like. Those are the two concepts there. But one of the most inspiring voluntary schools which I have come across is called Summerhill. Anybody heard of Summerhill? Anybody not heard of Summerhill? Okay, you're gonna wanna watch this movie. This school's been around for 100 years, okay? Type into YouTube, Summerhill 2008. It's gonna tell you the story, and I'm gonna give it to you right now. Here's how it works in Summerhill. You come to Summerhill, it's a K-12 school. Welcome to Summerhill. Here's our optional classes. If you don't want to take these optional classes, we have 10 acres. We have a bike ramp in the front. We got musical instruments in the barn. We have a tree house out there. Go have fun. Go be a kid and go play. You're going around. Give it up for Summerhill Voluntary School. 100 years. 100 years. And every time I watch that movie, I cry about 4 or 5 times during the movie because I said I knew something was wrong in the school system. I knew when I was 16 years old, asking some stranger to go to the bathroom, I said I knew something was wrong, man. This ain't right, man. And you know what it is? It is a day prison for children. And now you guys and us, there's a worldwide awakening, and they're starting to say, hey, schools are pretty bad. But I go all the way, and I call it slave training. You know why? Because statism is slavery. And what is statism? Statism is the belief that the state has a higher authority than you. So let me ask you a question. How many of you own your body? Everybody in the room, thank you. This means this is a truth of self-ownership, okay? Principle number 2, now we're starting to talk about voluntarism. I get so excited about this stuff, okay? Self-ownership, principle number 1. Principle number 2, you can do whatever you want in the world as long as you don't harm people or their property and as long as you uphold your contracts. Pretty powerful non-aggression principle number 2. Principle number 3, the self-defense principle. You're allowed to defend your person and your property against any aggressors, okay? These are the 3 principles of voluntarism, and once I discovered this, I became liberated. Why? I was a big Ron Paul guy. I wasn't into politics, and then in 2008, I think he said, I'm the champion of the Constitution during the debate. I said, I love the word champion. I don't know what this guy is, but he's awesome. And then they did what they did in 2008. They did what they did in 2012. Seems to me fraud, complete illegitimacy, and I said, I don't think politics is how you change the world. And turns out that's true. Turns out I'm not alone. Turns out there's a huge awakening that's happening, and it's very exciting. So the most important thing I wish I would have got as a kid was to learn about these principles, okay? So I mentioned Summerhill. I mentioned Valor Academy. There's also a school called Acton Academy. There's a school in the U.S. called Sudbury Schools, okay? Been going on for 60 years. All right. So this is the future, in my opinion. And I think one of the key things to teach children is about self-ownership. I got a great story. My friend Rosalind Ross, who I met some years ago at a freedom event, because this is where you meet awesome people. This is why I'm so gregarious and outgoing out here, because I want to meet all you guys and become friends and start building a voluntary world. she was telling her story. And so she has a 5-year-old son, right? Teaching about self-ownership. And so she takes her 5-year-old son to a family reunion. And of course, our family, sometimes they're not on board with self-ownership and freedom. So she goes to family reunion. Uncle's, oh, he's going to pick up the 5-year-old. And then the 5-year-old just puts his elbows down and, hey, you need permission to pick me up. I'm so sorry. Can I pick you up? He says, no, thank you. And he runs off. Hey, if you don't want to get picked up, don't pick me up. Okay? He's 5 years old when he said that. Okay? So that means they can get it. Kids are very smart. They're very intelligent. In fact, I believe, like many of the great thinkers, that every child is a born genius. And we're still the children. We are the children, right? I feel that alive. And so once I started getting into more transformational work and letting go of people's opinions and finding my tribe, I started to realize I got a purpose, and that is to liberate the children, set the captives free. I appreciate it. This whole event is so powerful, the food, the energy, people knowing the financial stuff. So we got to find our groove, and that's what education is about. And your child might be passionate about a certain age, at age 5 or age 8, but guess what? The most important skill for the future, in my opinion, is the love of learning. How did you learn to walk? How did you learn to talk? Not with the curriculum, not by coercion. It was, you can do it, come on. You fail, come on, come on, you can do it. Try. Encouragement, love. And so as parents, I think the role and responsibility, more than a teacher, is to be a champion of unconditional love. If there's one thing I know my mom loves me. I know my dad loves me. And I messed up a lot in my life, but they were there for me, okay? So that's about the volunteerism intro, and we have those schools. Second way of voluntary learning, apprenticeships. Apprenticeships have been proven throughout history in the trades, in the arts, in the musics, electrical, plumbing, painting, construction, tattoo, IT, all of it. And so what is apprenticeships? My definition is the transfer of knowledge from a mentor to an apprentice. An apprentice is normally someone who is with little experience, but a lot of time, a lot of desire. A mentor has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. They create a relationship and they trade. What do? They trade. Sorry, I need to emphasize my words a little bit, okay? So they trade. So you have the mentor and you have the apprentice, and they trade. They make it a win-win relationship. I paid $50,000 for my college degree. And what did I get? Maybe 5 friends out of it. You know, that was the benefit. I made some cool friends, okay? But it was absolute horse crap from that thing. But it was part of my experience, as I stated. So that's the apprenticeship model. The next model is homeschooling. Many of you guys know about homeschooling. Homeschooling is very exciting. I believe it is the future of learning as well. Did you know that it is illegal to homeschool in Germany? Did you know that homeschooling was illegal in the United States up until the 1980s? What happened? Because when the politicians and the statists and the psychopaths push so far, then eventually people have a revolution, an evolution. Thank you, John. I like that word better too. And they start hounding their politicians and they beg for a crumb of freedom. But begging for a crumb of freedom is over. Because now we know that we are all equal and that we are the kings and queens of earth. You are the kings and queens of this planet. Give it up for the kings and queens. I know. Sometimes I know we're dealing with our psychological blocks, our conditioned mind, because that is what they've been afraid of this whole time. They've been afraid that we're going to find our power and not be afraid of death and not be afraid of anything. Because once we all do that, and that's happening right now, in the next 5 to 10 years, that is going to happen. We're seeing it. You're the seeds of this awakening. They can't stop us. No matter what they do, they can't stop us. And we will build this voluntary world. Yes, you can feel it. Clap it if you feel it. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing to children is completely diabolical. It's probably the most evil thing I've ever seen on the planet. Injecting them with poison, tell them to chop off your genital, your lingam, mess up your yoni. I saw the documentary, What is a Woman? I couldn't believe it. Could not believe what I saw in that documentary. And my prediction is that soon they'll be vaccinating children in the school system, and they'll probably be doing these transgender surgeries in the school system. And if not in the school system, in a building right next to them. If you look at the growth of these pediatric transgender surgical centers, I think it was about 10 years ago, there was like 10 of them in the country. I think there's like 300 now, maybe more. So there are predators out there, there's opportunists out there, and then there are visionaries and champions and winners like you and I who believe in voluntary consensual relationships, especially for our children. And this is the light, and this is the hope that I get so excited about. So let's get back to homeschooling. Homeschooling, my definition of homeschooling is when a leader creates an atmosphere where personalized learning can occur. So what type of atmosphere shall we create for personalized learning to occur? Just like this, a peaceful environment, peaceful atmosphere where they're safe, where mistakes are welcome, and that's really about it. So let me give you the 4 stages of homeschooling as well. By the way, if you're dealing with some inner dialogue that you're not a leader, let me just help emphasize, you are the leader, you are the king or queen of your domain, and you are leading yourself right now. You led yourself here right now. So if you agree to that, let's say, please put your hand on your heart, repeat after me, say, I'm a leader. I'm responsible. Turn to your neighbor, give him a high five and say, yes, you're a leader. That's right. That's right. Hey, remember, because the journey is the destination. And if we're not having fun with it, then we miss the whole thing. This is not an intellectual game. This is a hard game. This is a spiritual game. And our kids are alive with spirit. And the school system squeeze it out, and we open it back up again. And we water it, and we start growing it again. And one guy can make a difference. Look what Derek Bros did. Look what John Bush did. 2 guys. Power of 2. And I realized that when I was in Santa Cruz and they were doing this lockdown, and we realized that after a year of civil disobedience on the beach, and there's a long saga behind that, but we'll keep it short today, we realized we could show the people, here's the information, here's what's going on, the vaccines and the Bill Gates and everything, and all of it, right? We've been down the rabbit hole. We know what time it is. They don't want to see it. They don't want to see the information. And so, again, per Mr. Bush, here's a red pill, here's a blue pill. Choose. They choose blue pill. Okay, we send you peace and love. That's not a problem. You know, it was like a third of the planet is probably going to go down with that. We are so sad to see what's happening. So we started something called free hugs. 1 hour a week, we're giving free hugs out in Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. And I thought Santa Cruz was a conscious place, and there are a lot of conscious, sweet people there. And so we'd have signs that say free hugs, and unbelievable. But the point was that we're sending them peace and love. That's it. I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm not trying to save you. We'd have people come up, and they're like, what are you guys doing out here? They're all masked up. And we say, well, we're giving free hugs. And they're like, well, what church you're part of? We're like, we're not part of a church. Like, well, what do you guys oh, come and get a hug. Yeah, take your mask off. Hugs. They're crying. The kids are all excited. You know why? Because love has no enemies. So we can't play with the left-right paradigm anymore. We're not. We are the transcendent ones. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. It all relates to the children. The children are the target. You know what they're doing to children? They're telling them that truth doesn't exist. Yes, I have a male organ, but you can be a girl. I have a female organ, you can be a boy. And so my research has shown what they're doing is they're attacking truth. Because when you attack truth, you attack justice. And you've heard phrases like social justice, climate justice, and it's getting confusing. But the reality is that truth is very simple. Here's the slide I saw. Who was it, Paul and Lauren? Great. I'm so glad to hear them talk about voluntarism. Here's the sign, and you guys know about it. Do no harm, and take no shit. That's right. Very simple. Very simple. There's one rule: don't initiate harm against people. That's the key thing. So homeschooling, did I get to the few phases yet? I didn't even touch on the phases. Okay, how's my time doing? 4 phases of homeschooling. Number 1, forced school. Okay, excuse me, school at home. They replicate the school system at home. They see what's going on in the government school system. And they got, okay, welcome to homeschool. 10 o'clock math, 11 o'clock language arts. Okay, you gotta do homework. And guess what? It's a little bit better, but you want to move on to the next phase. The next phase is called de-schooling. What's it called? De-schooling, yes. So we are deprogramming ourselves, deconditioning ourselves. The child's ready and born free. It's us, the adults, who think, Okay, you got to have the grades. You got to go to college. You do all these things, okay? It's a new era, my friends. The internet's changed the game. The last 20 years, they lost control of all information, and now it's a whole digital world, okay? Deschooling is like you have a soda, and you shake up the soda, and before you can drink it, you got to open up and let the pressure release. A child is under pressure in a government-forced schooling environment. Can I go to the bathroom? No. You have to read this. Why? I don't want to read it. You have to, or you get detention. Okay, right? So they're actually getting the slave training. So the rule of thumbs for every year your child was in a forced learning environment, you want to give them a month of total freedom. Let's say your child's in the 6th grade, you want to give them 6 months of total freedom. What does that mean? If they want to play video games all day, let them play video games all day. If they want to sleep all day, let them sleep all day. You know what they're doing? They're finding out who they are again. Because when they're 0 to 5, they're alive, they're singing, they're doing what they do, they want to, cook in the kitchen, and then they go through school and they feel like a mouse again. Your child's not a mouse. They are a supreme spiritual being, just like you, that came here for something significant. Clap if you like it. Come on, raise your energy. Let's go. So that's deschooling. Phase 3 is homeschooling. I gave you the definition of homeschooling. Create that atmosphere, create that environment. And then the apex of learning, in my opinion, is called self-directed learning. What's it called, please? That's right. That's where we don't need anybody to create the environment. You guys are self-directed learners. You guys didn't come here for extra bonus points. You guys didn't come here for, assignment. You came here to learn. You came here to do whatever you came to do here, whatever it is. Self-motivation is what self-directed learning is about. As I mentioned, the love of learning is so important. And if that's the only thing that you get from the homeschooling environment, first 10 years, 15 years, whatever, is that your child enjoys learning, you have won. You have absolutely won. Oh, my child's 10, they can't read yet. Don't worry. They'll read when they need to read. Just like you learn what you need to know. I know a lot of people who learn how to change their car parts on the internet, on YouTube. It's so exciting. Okay. How we doing? Doing 5? Okay. Okay, so I want to acknowledge you guys for being here and the parents. How many of you guys have children right now? How many of you don't have children but like to have children? Okay. So in a great book, which the author is here, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, he defines government. And government, if you go to the root word, is gubernare mente, which is control of the mind. He gave me a great definition, which is government is intergenerational organized crime. I said, wow, it took me a year to that truth. So I came up with something called intergenerational freedom. Intergenerational what? Freedom. That's right. So intergenerational freedom is the transfer of the knowledge of the truth of self-ownership, non-aggression, and self-defense. These are not opinions, okay? You all agree you own your body, correct? You all agree you can do whatever you want as long as you don't initiate aggression or violence against a peaceful person, yes? And you all have the right to defend yourself, okay? These are the secrets, okay? It's out of the bag now, right? It's the genie's out of the bottle, all right? So it's intergenerational freedom, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping young people. I remember being a kid, man. And when I see a young person and they're struggling through this forced jab, the forced curriculum, and having to get permission to urinate and defecate, I'm like, we got to free that one, because one guy can make a difference. One woman can make a difference. So how do we win ultimately? Well, do everything we're learning here today and focus on intergenerational impact. How many of you guys have heard of Lysander Spooner? How many of you have not heard of Lysander Spooner? Okay, write this down. Here's the essay, The Constitution of No Authority from 1870. 150 years ago, he wrote the most empowering essay for freedom that I've ever read, and he's more relevant today than he was back then. Very powerful. How many have heard of Ludwig von Mises, Murray Rothbard, Bob Marley, George Carlin? These guys are not dead. They live. Do you still listen to Bob Marley? I do. I sing, one love, one heart, let's get together and feel all right. Oh, we're going to be singing that tomorrow, I know, right? So beautiful. So think about intergenerational impact. Think about how you make a difference because you're planting seeds. And I no longer try to convert people. I understand. I'm like Johnny Appleseed of freedom. I plant seeds everywhere I go. I talk with them. I say, sometimes I'll ask people, like in the airport or something, I'm talking with somebody, I say, funny question, who owns your body? They say, oh, this or that or whatever. It's like, cool, man. All right, see you later. Boom. When we're giving out free hugs, it's about 97% positive, but then some really wounded people would come up and they're like, you guys are giving out free hugs during a pandemic? We're like, yeah. Like, it's really dangerous. I said, okay, can I ask you a question? Yes. Who's responsible for your health? I said, well, the government is, and me. Oh, no. I'm not. The government's not responsible for your health. Or who's responsible for your health? I said, the community is. And me. I said, oh, no, the community is not. I said, do you want me to do push-ups for you? Want me to go run around the block for you? One lady came up, and she was masked up outside in a public area in a conscious city, right? It's really dangerous what you guys are doing out here. I said, ma'am, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Are you really afraid of a virus? She says, yeah. I said, maybe you should stay home. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm going to live my life no matter what the pandemic is. Even if the virus was killer, which is debatable or not, you don't have the right to tell me what to do with my body. And I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to be controlled or afraid of the afterlife. I believe there's magical going on inside of us. I believe I live inside my body. I believe this is a temple. I believe that children know. I believe that children came here for something, for significance. And this is just getting started. The transformation is upon us. The evolution is here. And if you feel the vibrations and you feel positive, give it up for a round of applause. You feel what's happening in Texas, in Mexico, around the world, you can feel it. And there's one piece, and I'll finish up here. Give me 1 minute. If you want to stay in contact with me, you can reach me at davidjamesrodriguez.com. If you want to graduate your child, you can email me at info@thevaloracademy.com. So one last story that's over. As Derek said before, we're getting the knowledge, we're getting the information, and we don't just want to have it here. We want to put it into what? That's right. And we're going to come back here in 6 months or 12 months or whenever we meet again. We'll say, here's what I learned. Here's what I did. Here's what I made mistakes. Mistakes aren't the problem. Fear of making mistakes are the problem. Last story, there was a father. He was having a business meeting at his home office, and he had a 10-year-old daughter. And so he said, honey, please keep the music down. Try not to be too loud. We got a real special guest. Very important business meeting we're going to have tonight. She's a 10-year-old. He says, okay, can I join the meeting? And the father is a voluntarist. He's empowering him, self-directed learner, opportunity. Okay, you can join the meeting, but just please stay quiet. Okay, she comes in. So they're having a meeting, multimillionaire guest with the father. They're having a meeting. She's paying attention, and all of a sudden, the millionaire guest is looking at the daughter. He says, she's taking notes, and she's listening. And so he starts engaging with her. And wouldn't you know, the 10-year-old who's allowed to pursue her own interests and her own passions of life, she has something to say. And so they talk. And so what was going to be a meeting between two adults became a meeting between two adults and a young woman. And at the end of the meeting, the guy is so impressed at a successful business meeting, and he looks at the 10-year-old. He's so inspired and curious, and he says, how did you become so self-confident? And she said, well, my dad said that you were very successful when you were to come here. I decided that you might have more money power than me, but you don't have more mental power than me. My friends, power is the key. Action is power. That's what it is. Thank you for being here. My name is David James Rodriguez. Feel free to reach out. Give it up for the entire group and you guys for showing it up. We're going to win. Intergenerational freedom, voluntary world, one relationship at a time. Thank you very much. Peace and love to you guys. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you again, David, for that. We're going to keep this wide shot going. Let's keep the lights on, please. Thank you. One more round of applause for David. David, thank you, brother. You see why I brought him down to Mexico? Yeah? I hope you guys are enjoying the selection of speakers we have. We really do try to go far and wide to find people. I know some of them are people you're like, oh, I've never heard of this person, but I hope you still give them the same attention you gave Del Bigtree and some of the bigger names, because we are handpicking people that we know have knowledge that we hope you will be interested in. So we're about to go play a couple sponsor ads real quick, but I want to mention one more time. I mentioned them yesterday. I want to give them a shout out again. The Higherside Chats, Greg Carlwood. I asked yesterday, anybody familiar with Greg Carlwood, the Higherside Chats? If not, you got to go check out the HighersideChats.com. This is super deep research, authors, journalists like myself, talking about everything from freedom and voluntarism to, do we live in a simulation? I think we might. You know, all those kinds of fun rabbit holes. So check it out at the Higherside Chats. We're thankful to Greg for his support. And back to you, John.
All right, man. Give it up for David James Rodriguez once more. David, if you're listening, you pump me up. Man, you bring the fire. That guy knows how to talk, and he's got a very potent message that we all need. Intergenerational freedom is what we're building. I want to thank a couple of our sponsors, as I like to do. Today is AGORISM and Parallel Networks Day, and we have been graciously sponsored by Roberts and Roberts Brokerage Incorporated. A guy named Tim Fry started that company. They've been in business for 40 years. They sell precious metals. Precious metals have been a store of value for quite some time now, and everybody knows inflation's running through the roof. I'm actually growing tired of the manipulation that we see in our markets and all the uncertainty. It's really frustrating, don't you think? Makes it hard for me as an entrepreneur, as a father, to live my life. So what we want to do is take our wealth, take our resources, take our toys, and go play in another sandbox, really. And gold, silver are wonderful ways to protect your wealth. I highly encourage you to actually take possession of the physical precious metals, put it in a safe, protect it with some firearms, call Strategic Home Defense. We're blending the sponsorships here. How about that? Call Strategic Home Defense so they can protect you. But Roberts and Roberts Brokerage Incorporated, I've known this guy since the Ron Paul days. His name is Tim Fry. You can check them out at rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co. Tell them you heard about them on the Greater Reset. Tell them John Bush sent you. They'll take real good care of you. And the cool thing is you can use your Bitcoin to buy gold. Pretty cool. All right, that's Roberts and Roberts Brokerage Incorporated. Speaking of investment opportunities, we're also sponsored by a wonderful company, wonderful investment opportunity, ECI Development. ECI Development. They specialize in vacation and rental properties in beautiful, beautiful parts of Central and South America. So once again, the idea is to take your money out of this funny business, just ones and zeros, nonsense, subjected to the whims of politicians, Wall Street, fat cats, central bankers. And in fact, it could just be confiscated, right? And put it into something real, something physical, something that will last. It'll outlast your life. And if you play your cards right, maybe you could pass on those investments to your children. You can check them out at ecidevelopment.com. They've been in the game for quite some time. They'll take real good care of you. For those of you looking for a solid and sound investment opportunity, they support the Greater Reset, and we encourage you to support them. That's ecidevelopment.com. Let's take it back to Mexico. So the cool thing about freedom is, you see, Rebecca, will you bring Mexico on? I believe Derek and there we go. All right, there's Ramiro.
Awesome. Yeah, we're back. You guys ready? We have someone very special coming up next, a man who needs no introduction. But before I want to go into that, I want to go into how my life transformed over the past 2 years after meeting Derek Rose and John Bush. And I remember maybe more than 2 years ago, I was in New York City, and I was really facing the dilemma of potentially having to continue my career in big tech and have the vaccinations forced onto me there. And I didn't know that I didn't know what to do. And then I remember seeing this video of Derek on the beach in Mexico. I think he was in Puerto Vallarta. And he was like, you know, we're down here and there's absolutely no COVID. People are just living their life like God intended. And so throughout the process, I started my own company, Above Phone, and I just want to shout that out really quickly. Thanks to working with Derek and John, you know, about 2 years later, I'm completely on my own, self-funded, and making more money than I did in my previous job. Not that money is, the source of all things, but it gives us the opportunity to work on cool products. And this is a above phone EMF pouch that we just finished designing. The amazing part is, it's really cool. And if you guys want to learn more information about the phone, go to abovephone.com. We have a bunch of awesome educational materials. We have webinars, but really it's all about working with the special people we found. And everyone in my company has been a volunteer from the Greater Reset. So it's about seeing the value in the people around you and collaborating in whichever way we can. And truly, we are bringing activism, we are bringing freedom to a higher standard. Konkin says in his work, counter economics, that's actually the short form. It's counter-establishment economics. And I don't know about you, but when I go in and see the way the world works, the way the corporation works, I think, I bet I could do a better fucking job than that. And you can too. So all the speakers we've had on this year, at one point in time, they used to be in the audience. Next year, we want to bring you on. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear your ideas. We want to see how you're changing the world. So I just wanted to say all of that. Really glad you guys are here. And now we're going to bring on a speaker, again, who needs no introduction, a very special friend of mine, truly changed my life. And I've been on I've been on tours with him. I've watched him speak over 20 different times. I've watched him perform all his rap albums. And just the way this guy makes space for everyone in his life, he is the embodiment of freedom. And so without further ado, I want to bring on Derek Bros. Where's he at?
I woke up this morning feeling I had something to say. I got doubts on my mind. It's time to let them fly away. It's time to unlearn poison and heal broken hearts. Go back to the end. It's time for a fresh start. This is the place we can atone for our sins. This is the place where our hero's journey begins. A space between love and hate where there's no escape from our fate. Rather than be irate, let's create, let's build. The better world we know is possible. I've got no fear because we can overcome any obstacle. I stare all my demons in the face. I'll show you what's possible. I send love from my heart. I'm intuitive, not illogical. It's just that lately I've been searching for deeper meaning. I'm sick of drugs, booze, mindless sex, and criminal scheming. Feels like I should have more at this point in time. I'm talking knowledge, not money. I'm trying to feed my mind. Open up all three of my eyes and fly to the heavens. During my meditation, I see my life in chapters of 7. I connect to my inner child to heal my wounds. I remember those I've lost to dope, gone too soon. My life flashes before me, a collage of joy and pain. I recall the highs, the lows. I swear I'm going insane. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this journey. Spent too much time worried about things that don't concern me. No more time wasted not chasing my dreams. I wake up every day knowing this world ain't what it seems. We gotta make our own path. We gotta find our own meaning, because we can't be sure. We might be dreaming. All I know is when I look in your eyes, I see myself. I'm just a reflection of your impression of my higher self. Could it be that our whole reason for being, our existence, is a lesson to teach us over and over until we get this? You are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Shake off your chains. You were blind, but now you see. Grandfather, help us remember where we come from. Grandmother, walk with us until the battle is won. Thank you, guys. That's a song called Reflection. I perform music under the name 33 for those who haven't heard. I'll be performing Sunday night here. I think I got you for 45 minutes. Are you with me? You with me? You with me, Texas? You with me at home? I know we got 22 countries in. I'm sending love to you. My intention is to share some ideas, some big ideas. I hope that they keep your attention and you don't get lost in the weeds. My goal is to be coherent. If I say something that offends you, triggers you, makes you feel a certain way inside, all I ask is that you sit with it and you think about it and reflect on why you feel that way. My intention is not to offend or to upset, but it is to make things very clear about why I'm here,
why I'm involved with the Greater Reset, and what my vision is for the future. Does that work for everybody? Okay. First thing I want to start off, and this is going to be totally unrelated to everything else I'm going to share with you, but it's a good starting point. 18 years ago, I was 20 years old, and I was addicted to crystal meth. I'd been a very depressed young little kid, cutting myself since a young age, hurting myself. The older I got, that turned into this anger, this sort of covering up my pain and realizing that I didn't want anybody to hurt me anymore. I was sick of being lied to by my birth father in and out of my life and being hurt by people. And I thought, you know what, I need to put a shell around. I mean, I didn't even consciously think about it. It just happened. I remember the moment it happened, though. My father had come home from prison. He was supposed to be there for a Christmas. He wasn't there again. I'm in my grandma's house, and I hear my grandma telling my mom, he's already on the way back to prison. I walked into my grandma's bathroom, and I remember just looking in the mirror and just crying my eyes out and saying, no one's ever going to fucking hurt me again. From that time, 14 till about when I got locked up at 21 years old, I became very self-destructive. The bright, beautiful being that was there was lost to the anger and the sadness. And that started to become, I'm the kid getting in fights at school. I'm the kid throwing chairs at teachers. I'm the kid getting arrested at school. And, at the time, I was just trying to process all the emotions I had. And with time, obviously, I can look back and see, wow, I was going through some stuff and I didn't know how to process it. But as this angry 17, 18-year-old, for one, I think I realized the school system didn't make sense, even subconsciously. I was very intelligent. I was in all advanced classes. In fact, I graduated 6 months early, went right into college while my friends were still in senior year of high school. But I was the kid that was getting arrested. That's all anybody knew me as. I think I was also looking for attention. I wasn't looking for the right attention, but I realized when I'm goofy and crazy, people laugh or they pay attention to me. That kind of feels good. So I was doing all the weird stuff, getting arrested. But when I graduated high school, 18, start drinking a lot. And I was like, wow, this feels fun. This is exciting. So then I'm the guy who's taking 18 shots of tequila and puking all over the floor or falling all over the place at every party. And then that slowly led to being the guy that was taking Xanax all the time and blacking out and doing a lot of things, hurting people I cared about. Then that turned into being the guy who was on ecstasy for 6 months straight until I turned into a zombie and couldn't feel anything because I lost all my serotonin. And then that turned into me being introduced to crystal meth. And it was basically this 2-year period from graduating high school to getting locked up where I was just tumbling down, and January 2005, I tried crystal. I was locked up by November 2005. And some of you heard me share this story, but in case you haven't, I want to share it again. The reason I'm starting here is because everything else I'm about to say after this is going to be more like practical. We need to create new systems and all that. But none of that matters if we don't focus on the healing. People familiar with my website, it's called The Conscious Resistance. Well, that came from this experience. I'm 20 years old. I get locked up, and I thought I could take care of it real quick, so I signed for some paperwork. Long story short, I got screwed over, so I ended up getting 2 years felony probation plus jail time. Had to call my mom and let her know, okay, something's going on. I got arrested. I thought I could take care of it. Eventually, I had to face the fact that I'm not going anywhere for a year. Has anybody really had the feeling of being powerless, like truly powerless, or at least that perception of that, right? Ultimately, we have power, but still that feeling of like, there's nothing you can do, right? In this situation, I could be on the phone if I wanted, wasting money, calling my mom or crying to my girlfriend or calling a lawyer. It didn't matter. No matter what I did, I wasn't getting out of those 4 walls until these people said I could leave, right? And that is a tough thing to deal with, fighting that your friends are out there and you're worried about what is she up to or what's happening here and all this stuff, right? But you have to come to a place of acceptance. And that's what I had to do. I had to accept that, look, this is where I ended up. I was mad at myself because I'd been angry at my father for spending his whole life addicted to drugs, in and out of prison. I was like, oh, here I go, continuing the family tradition, right? And I decided I needed to figure out what was wrong and what I was needing. And that's when I discovered meditation while I was locked up. I discovered prayer. My granny, who recently passed away, was a huge spiritual influence to me. And she was sending me books on meditation, and it was just coming to me at the right time. So this all happened well before I ever got into any of this political stuff. I kind of had a vague fuck the government kind of mentality, but not any really
philosophy behind it. It was just like, yeah, anti-authority, teenage rage kind of thing, right? But then when I got locked up in prison, that's when I could really start to peel back these layers and see how much pain I had in me and how, where it was coming from. And it was a process. It was 2 to 3 years. I ended up getting out finally, October 2008, the happiest I'd ever been. I remember it was like, it felt like, honestly, it felt like this cloud had been lifted off me that had been existing on top of me since I was a child. And for the first time, I could see again. I could see the sunshine. I felt happy. It was a weird feeling, but that's why sometimes I tell people I'm 38 right now. I feel like I'm probably 15 because it felt like I wasn't awake till then, till I got through this experience. And all of a sudden at 24, I'm walking home from the shittiest job I've ever had that I have to take 2-hour buses each way to get there. But I'm just happy to be alive. I'm taking naps on the side of the street and just enjoying the sunset. Like, totally different vibe. And that's when most of you have met me throughout those last 13 years. That started 2008, 2009. I started to get into activism, watched some documentaries, read some book. 2010, here I am ever since then, right? I share that story to say that, look, no matter what we're facing, we can overcome it. And even within our movements, I've met a lot of people who come to me and say, Derek, I have a drug addiction too, or I have a brother or a sister, or I used to, or I've never touched a drug a day in my life, but this is how I'm struggling, right? We all have real life struggles. Mental health is just as important. I'm going to get back to that in a little bit, but I just wanted to share this story because nothing we build is going to last or work for the coming generations like it needs to, because I'm not just building for me in my present moment. I'm thinking about my 6 nieces and nephews that I fight for every day. Because they're growing up in a world where these masks are normalized, where not seeing friends is normalized. All the stuff we know, right? And I'm thinking about their kids too. The ones I might not even get to meet. Can you do that? Can you comprehend fighting for something you might not see? So many of us are focused on instant gratification. I'm thinking generationally, because that's what they are doing. They've been working for hundreds of years planning what they've been building. They got us so focused on how many likes and clicks and everything right in front of me. Let's fill the void with social media and whatever else. We need to be thinking long-term, beyond only our present lives, right? Look at all the young ones here. That's who we're fighting for. And the reality is we might not see the results of our action. I live that every day, knowing that I might not see the results of what I'm trying to do. My grandmother, she's in her late 80s, and she's been awake since, she was before I was even born. And as I've gotten older and I woke up, I went to Grandma and Grandpa, hey, have you guys ever heard of the Federal Reserve? Grandma, have you ever heard of this? And my grandpa kind of patted me on the head and it's like, welcome to the club, No, they actually told me, they were like, you need to go look up this guy. He's out here in Texas. His name's Ron Paul. And I was like, Grandpa, I just heard about him. And it just helped me see, wow, this fight has been going on since even before I was born. And it will continue even after we die, right? But that's what we really have to think about. The healing is necessary if we're going to build institutions, not just alternative institutions. Okay, we're not their system, but we're still repeating the same problems, right? We're still bringing our ego and our trauma to the next stage. That's not going to work, guys. We will cycle back. As John said, that revolving door, that recycling. If we don't heal our trauma as individuals and collectively as a community, we will recreate these same systems. It might take a couple hundred years before we become those people that we've been fighting, but I guarantee you, every movement before us, every revolutionary movement around the world who has gone down this path and has chosen violence, or even like, let's put us in charge, we're the new political masters, they end up recreating these same systems. And our goal is to avoid that. You guys still with me? All right, let's start getting into the tech stuff. Before we do that, let me hear you. We are power. We are power. We are power. We are made of soil, the earth, the water. We have all the elements within us. We all belong to this planet. We all have a space. We all belong here. All the different races and ethnicities and backgrounds and these nations that they've created and these names. At the end of the day, we are all in this together. And in a true way, not in their BS, we're all in this together COVID thing. But in a true way, we really are. Even our brothers and sisters, this is an important one that sometimes our movements here I don't think quite grasp, because we get into this holier than thou, we're better than those who aren't here kind of mentality, right? You've seen it. we've all done it sometimes. It's like, oh, we got it figured out. Those stupid people over there, right? Not remembering that those stupid people are people you love and care about. Because most of us don't have families who are totally on board with this. I'm blessed and honored to have my brother and my mom here. Please give it up for my brother and my mom. They've been working hard. And I'm not even saying that they're on the same page that we all agree 100%, but they're open-minded enough to come here, right? And I know a lot of us don't have that with our families. That's why so many of you come here seeking new families, because we do feel like the outcasts, the black sheep in our families. I hear it from so many people when I travel and do talks. My son thinks I'm crazy. My parents think I'm crazy. My uncle, it goes both ways. But if we fall into this trap of divide and conquer, we're the enlightened ones. They're all so horribly asleep. I mean, in the last 2 years, some of the things I've heard, guys, from our movement, which likes to make fun of the other people saying, oh, they're so compassionate. But I hear people say, well, my mom got the shot, so I guess she's basically dead. It's like, is that really the way you want to approach that? Like, I get the concern about people who've taken the shots, but from my view, I want to be there for that person, because if they do, let's hope not, but let's say they did get injured, you're going to want them to come to you for support, right? You're not going to want them to find a closed door and feel like, oh, I can't go to that person because now, they hate me because I made a different choice than them. This movement, at least the movement we believe in, as we've been talking about, voluntarism, it is about freedom of choice. And that includes the freedom to get a vaccination if you choose. Now, that also means the freedom to associate with who you want, right? None of us should be forced to associate with other people. As I said yesterday, we're all here voluntarily and consensually. Nobody is forcing you to be in this auditorium or in this building. This is an example of a voluntary relationship. This is the kind of world we want to build. Now, we've been talking about the Freedom Cell Network. Ramiro, if you don't mind getting that up for the people on the stream. Maybe I'll step aside here. Oh, wait, I guess I can stay here. So the Freedom Cell Network website, we're at 35,832. Everybody pull out your phones right now, please. I know you got them. freedomcells.org, freedomcells.org. If you're not a member right now, can I get a commitment to join this network right now? Just press join, and after my talk, finish filling out the process. Raise your hand if you're going to join the Freedom Cell Network today. Guys, it's not like I told you yesterday, we don't make any money off this. This is a totally free website. But if you join this and you search your area, you're going to find more people like you in your area. And if you don't, create a Freedom Cell in your area. And there's no commitment. Just create Houston Freedom Cell. And then next month when you're ready, plan a meeting at a local coffee shop or somewhere public. Get people to come out, see who you meet, and see where it goes. That's just the first step. Don't wait around, man. Even in this community of us that are trying to pump you up, we still have people who are waiting for something. As an example, like we had the community networking last night. Last year, we had a bunch of people come up and say, hey, it would be so great if we did this community networking thing. They kept coming up to Miriam, and Miriam said, great, let us know when it's happening and we'll promote it. And people were like, wait, no, me? Oh, no, I meant you. You do it. I'll just show up, right? Because everybody's waiting for Derek or Miriam or somebody else that they think. That's not what we're here for, guys. We're here to nominate you. Personal responsibility. We won't make it to the next stage if we don't start claiming personal responsibility, taking responsibility for our actions. So this is the map. As you can see, you can search. You can find groups and cells in your area. And Ramiro, we worked hard on this. And actually, this is the result of the Greater Reset 3. We raised $15,000 at the Greater Reset 3 to launch this website again and to build a better platform, to make the maps easier to find people. You can create a profile. You can go on there and put, we added what Ramiro called roles. So go down to the roles, Ramiro, a little bit. We got like landowner, land seeker. I'm a permaculturist. I'm an artist. I'm an activist. There we go. Natural builder, entrepreneur. These are just ways so that when you're searching the maps, you can readily, easily see, oh, wow, another artist. That's what I'm looking for, right? It makes you get that information a little quicker. Readiness level. Are you ready to meet online? You willing to meet in person? You're willing to come to meetings? You're ready to join on land? This helps give people that information quicker and sooner. Our goal here is using this network to facilitate connection. And then leave the website behind. Start meeting in the real world. And this is actually happening, guys. I started doing this in Houston in 2016 after being inspired by John talking about it. And if you go to Telegram and search Mexico Freedom Cell, you're going to see over 15 Freedom Cells that are now across Mexico just in the last 2 years. And I'm not saying they're all as active as I would wish them to be, but they are meetup groups, they're social. At the very least, they're helping people realize they're not alone. Of course, the next step is to actually start doing things as a Freedom Cell, right? It's not, despite what some people might believe, it's not a social club. It's not a place to just spam your events. It is a place to connect with people in the real world and to say, what kind of goals can we set? Okay, hey, within 6 months, I want my money out of the bank because I'm really concerned about this CBDC. And maybe your group, oh, well, we all have that concern. We're all concerned that these central bank digital currencies, which are even being discussed here in Mexico, are coming in the next couple of years. And I don't want my money to be turned digital and taken away from me by the government. So how can we plan ahead? Okay, well, look, let's set a goal for each of us, whatever your group. Maybe you start with 2 or 3 and then it grows, right? Within the next year or even 6 months, maybe to be safer, let's get our money out of the banks, right? Okay, so that's the goal. And then you start doing a little checklist of what is that really going to take? Thankfully, I wrote a handy book describing how to do that, which you can download for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. I have copies here if you want to sign. This is the second edition of my book. Some of you guys might have heard of it. I released this January 2020, which was a really interesting time to release a book talking about digital identities and social credit scores. I hadn't quite heard of the Great Reset yet, and we didn't know anything about COVID-19. But as a journalist, those of you who know my work, I've been focused on digital surveillance and digital tools for years. I've been warning about facial recognition since at least 2015 because I've been following that industry and AI and all this, and now more and more people are aware of it. And I don't know if those of you in the US have noticed that by the end of this year, facial recognition is going to be across the United States in order to fly. I don't know if you saw that. There was an announcement at the end of 2022, real quiet. All of these corporations riding the Biden administration to put this program into action. But don't blame Biden, because guess what? It was expanded by Trump, and then expanded by Obama, and then put into place by Bush all the way back to 9/11. So any of you who are still thinking you got some faith in Trump, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're still welcome here. You're still welcome here. You're still welcome, but you'll see soon enough, hopefully. But the point is, these systems are all in place. And they are coming into action. So we can either sit here and be terrified and just watch conspiratainment all the time. Okay, what's Derek up to? What's James up to? What's David up to? What's Mark up to? Okay, now I'm informed and terrified. I'm ready to go to bed. That's what some people are doing, and they don't do anything. I mean, you just consume and consume and consume. And this is why I've become more meticulous and careful about the content I put out, because I don't want to just send you a video for the sake of putting out a video. Has anybody noticed how much of the independent media has become clickbait the last couple of years? You'll never believe this. Oh my God, it's happening. There's some channels that come to mind that we won't name, but it's disappointing to say for me as a journalist, but also because you have to recognize this, my friends, as consumers of this information. Some people are just happy to feed you the problems and keep making money off of your views. That's the reality. They'll spoon feed you garbage every day if you keep eating it. I want to put something better in your mind. I want to feed you some solutions, some ideas, right? That's what we should be focused on. So when I'm talking about facial recognition and AI, yes, these are realities, and I have no idea what we're going to do about that and how we could even potentially stop it. There's no smash this button and all of it goes away. So we have to contend with it. It's happening. It's in motion. Agenda 2030, Great Reset, all these plans are there, right? That doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but it's happening. Those people are meeting they're in Europe time, so they're probably done by now. But they met this whole week, the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, planning out how to master the future. Did you guys hear that quote from Klaus? I don't know if y'all, hopefully you haven't been paying too much attention since you've been here, but I happened to see it last night. Klaus said, we're going to master the future. Also, anybody remember war criminal Tony Blair from the old Bush days? He said something yesterday about the digital passports again, and they also talked about battery passports to tell how much energy you're using as you travel, right? These are ideas that are being floated out there, right? They're in motion. So what are we going to do about it? Again, the Freedom Cell Network, building local community, get together. Okay, we know we want to get out of the system. CBDCs are coming. I want to get my money out of the bank. What are your options? I'm not here to tell you. I'm not here to give financial advice. I have ideas in the book, but whatever works for you. Maybe you're comfortable, as I am. Some people, it seems like people are so afraid of cash. I think this is part of the conditioning too. People see cash and they assume there's a drug deal going on or something like that. They've got you afraid you're just using the chip all the time, or now the QR code or any of that stuff. But it's okay. I think it's better to take your money out of the bank and put it in a safe at home. You'll be happier you have your physical cash if they turn all your digital dollars into CBDC coins and they say you can only access this if you download the government wallet, which now has your social credit score attached to it and everything else. And it'll also tell you how often you can drive with your carbon credits, all that stuff, right? You know it's coming, so if you're not doing anything, you're essentially accepting defeat. Do you recognize that? If you do nothing, you are essentially accepting defeat. And to go back to the coming generations, the children we're fighting for, you're accepting defeat for them and you're passing it on to them. Every one of your kids and every one of our nieces and nephews and every one of them who are not even here yet are depending on us. And I say this every talk now for the last 2 years, but I don't know how to emphasize it more, guys. Let's just close our eyes for a moment. See the children in your life, your kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, the people you love. And even just think, even if you don't have any of that, think of the kids. See them in your mind. They're running, they're playing, they're free. They have no awareness of any of this crap going on. And there's the kids who we don't even know yet. They're still waiting to be brought into the womb and brought into the earth. They've got so much potential. Holy shit, they can create the world we've been waiting for. But they need us to stand up. Do you see that? Can you see it, that they're waiting for us? It's either us or they get, you'll own nothing and be happy. It's either we create something different, we create what I'm calling Liberation 2030, Agora 2030, Freedom 2030, whatever you want to call it. If we don't put our mind in there, like Catherine was talking about, this backcasting or manifesting, creating, writing, drawing, thinking of your future, and not just talking about it, but living it. Saying, you know what, I do work 70 hours a week and I'm damn tired every time I get home, but I need to learn more about this permaculture thing and start growing my family some food. So I'm going to dedicate 1 hour, even though I'm tired when I get home from work, I'm going to do 1 hour of research on permaculture every day. 7 days later, you got 7 new hours of information. Within 2 weeks, you've got 14 hours of new data that you're adding to your knowledge base. And within a month, you could be an expert on permaculture. You could be working at a farm if you put that time into it. There's really no time for excuses. No matter what our situation is, we all have different backgrounds. Some of us have more money than others. Some of us, are ready to retire. We've already worked long and hard, and we just can't accept this idea that we're actually going to have to change our lives. But my friends, I don't think you can accept the lives you've lived previously and think you're going to make it through what's coming. A lot of people come to Mexico because they got out of Canada or Germany, and you know what they go do? Sit on the beach and do nothing. And assume that's it. The fight's over. I made it here. It'll never happen here. And then maybe even if they've got the money, they run to Nicaragua now because, I heard it's a little more chill there. It's a little less expensive too. And then they hear, it's free in Bali, so they go there. And they just keep running, and they keep running. And eventually those walls will come down and you won't be able to run. And you won't have any roots. You won't have a base. So wherever you are from, or wherever you're going back to, or wherever you want to make your new home, you need to start putting roots down. I've chosen Mexico and Morelia and this beautiful region that we're building our community that we've been telling you about. This is where I'm staking my claim. I'm not asking you all to come here. I need you to fight where you're at. I need you to build where you're at. Does that make sense? What time is it? How am I on time, everybody? 3:45? I think I got 15 minutes. Okay. Dang, I feel like I need 3 hours. Okay. All right, let's get into the big ideas here. So in this book, I talk about, I've recognized throughout, so I wrote this book in 2020. It came out. It became my most popular book not because I predicted COVID or anything like that, but because it anticipated the moment that we are facing the rise of technocracy. And really briefly, for those who are unfamiliar, just like you've heard of democracy, it's supposed to be ruled by people. Technocracy is ruled by technocrats, technological experts. And where have we heard trust the experts? All over the place the last 3 years, right? It is clear, and as I write in this book in the chapter called COVID 1984, it is clear that the last 3 years have been a technocrat's wet dream. People like Bill Gates, who are not elected to government anywhere, but are guiding public health policy. That's a technocrat. That's how that works, right? Who's this guy? We never elected him. He's not even a doctor. Oh, he's got a lot of money and power through that money. Let's put him on news and blast him everywhere like we should be listening to him, right? That's a perfect example of a technocrat. So I wrote about this, then COVID happened a month later, and this book became really relevant. This is actually where the phrase exit and build comes from. So if you guys are hearing that I wrote about it first in 2020. It's this idea of exiting from slavery systems is what I'm calling them now, systems that don't align with our principles, systems that aren't going to lead to that better world, and trying to build and or support those who are building better ones. So for example, when I say that, maybe I should explain. build a better system. So in Ramiro's case, he's like, hey, we got these big tech companies. They're all up in everybody's phones. People love smartphones and the convenience of them and the use of them, but there's no privacy. Okay, well, I'm going to start a company trying to de-Google phones and strip them of all the spyware and add better programs to them, right? He exited from that system and he built something better. Now, I don't have those capabilities to build that. Instead, I support Ramiro and people who are doing that, right? That's what the exit and build idea is. Sometimes it's also about physical location. Many of you thought, hey, Canada's too crazy. I'm coming to Mexico or elsewhere. That's also exit and build. So that phrase has become fairly popular in various circles of these movements, thankfully, and more people are focused on solutions. And I decided that I wanted to write an update to this book. It has 5 new chapters and a new introduction because after the last 3 years, we've learned quite a bit. Like I said, we didn't even know the word, the Great Reset, at the time I wrote this book. We hadn't even seen lockdowns and travel restrictions and all this stuff that we are now familiar with. So I learned a lot myself, but also I toured the US and Mexico and I heard stories from people. I heard stories from people that said, Derek, when the lockdown started, I was so alone. I was depressed. I didn't know anybody. And then I watched the Greater Reset. And I went to a local watch party and I met all these amazing people. Now we're growing food together. Now we pulled our kids out of school together. We went together and we closed our bank accounts. Like I was hearing these real world stories, or people who said, I was so alone during COVID. And then I heard of the Freedom Cell Network and I went to the website and I checked the maps and there was a group near me. Now we're building these backyard gardens, or we bought land, whatever the thing was. They started taking action. That's what we need. That's the only thing that's going to lead to change. So it works. Like I keep trying to, mention to people that this thing that we're all a part of here, that you're feeling here in Mexico, and I'm sure the folks in Texas are feeling, I even hope those of you who are watching at home are feeling what we're sending to you. It's like, if you don't step into this and be a part of it, it's going to pass right by you. There's so many people that we know who are the kind of people that I'm talking about, who are just obsessively watching the content and doing nothing. Anybody have friends like that? Know other people? Whether you met them in real life or just friends online. People who just, they post memes, they post articles, they do this, but they're not actually trying to change anything about it because they're either, Trump will come along and save me, or Ron DeSantis, or whoever the next political puppet is, right? Or Elon Musk is going to save me. Whoever that new savior complex might be, or they're just, some people are what we call black-pilled. They've watched so much content, gone down so many rabbit holes, they think that it's totally hopeless. Any solution you can present, like for example, when I tell people, hey, yeah, we're exiting a building, we're going to get some land, we're going to grow food. Oh, you really think they're going to let you grow your own food? Have you ever heard of Waco? They're just going to come bomb you and kill you, man. And could that happen? Could things get so bad that eventually all these free communities we build get surrounded by total statist areas, and they eventually say, you're not allowed to grow food, or your kids aren't vaccinated, or whatever, and they try to come shut us down? Could that happen? 100%. 100%. I'm not here to tell you we're going to go live in some fairy tale land and everything's going to be perfect. But we also believe in self-defense. And honestly, I'm just going to say it, that if I had to die like fighting for the things I believe in, or fighting for my own sovereignty, or to protect a child, or if I ever have children, to keep them safe and healthy from these people, what other greater cause is there than to stand up for what we believe in? And I'm not calling that out. I'm not wishing that or anything. I'm just saying, when push comes to shove, like I described what happened to the people in Chedan, they picked up the sticks, they picked up the stones, and they fought back when it was time. So that's not what we're here to do. But if they push and it comes down to it, I'm not laying down. I don't know. People say, oh yeah, Derek, what about when they pass the CBDCs? You're not going to be able to use your crypto then. Really? Watch me. You think I'm going to listen to some politicians because they say things or they write things on pieces of paper? That doesn't affect my freedom, my sovereignty, and it doesn't have to affect yours. Does that mean it's going to be easy? Does that mean it's not going to be scary? Not at all. We're going to face some tough times, my friends, and we're trying to avoid that as much as possible, but the reality is, there's some tough days ahead, I believe. But I also believe that this is the moment we were born for. I'm getting short on time, and there's a really big idea I want to introduce, and I do want to talk a little bit about the conscious agora, so I'm going to maybe go a couple minutes over, John, if you don't mind. So there's 5 attack vectors that I've realized as I was studying everything we've seen the last 2 years. 5 attack vectors that I've recognized. Now, the interesting thing about this, these are ways that I believe governments around the world were attacking the free people. But By understanding where they were attacking us, we can also understand where we need to strengthen. Does that make sense? One area, which we talked about, the kids. They're coming for the children's minds. They always have been, but now we're at a point where it's something we've never seen, where parents literally have to worry that when their kids go to school, they're going to start talking to their kids about gender reassignment things and say, we're going to keep this between us. We're not going to tell your parents. It's okay. We're going to start giving you, that stuff is happening. And I'm not saying anything about that issue. I'm just saying the fact that they feel that confident to go behind parents' backs, that's a dangerous place to be, right? And again, I believe there is a direct effort to specifically drive a wedge between parents and kids right now. We've seen it with previous indoctrination. You can look at the Nazis and you can look at the communists and others trying to, with their youth brigades, right? Getting in the kids' heads. And before you know it, well, the parents are just old. They don't understand what we're building. They don't understand our movement or our ideas, right? There's danger there. So they're coming for the kids. They're also clearly coming for the money. We talked about the CBDCs. They're trying to control you through money. We've seen people, including myself and other people, being kicked off Patreon, PayPal, people, really having to feel the threat. Like Dell was here the other day. Dell, among other people, was listed as a disinformation dozen. And we kind of joke about that. We've had about 6 of the disinformation dozen on the Greater Reset over the years. But think about that. The government is literally at the point where they're listening to this propaganda outlet and saying, these 12 people are spreading dangerous information. And now we're finding with the Twitter files and other lawsuits that the government was literally naming people like Dell and RFK Jr. and others and saying, go after these people. Do you understand why Dell had security then? These are starting to not just be some funny things, oh, I got banned on the internet, but like people's livelihood, people's money being frozen in the bank accounts for giving to the wrong places, all these kinds of things. The money. The food, they're coming for the food as well. They're going to try to control your access to food, whether that's you can't get in the grocery store without showing your COVID shot thing or whatever the next thing is. That's one part of it, but it's also this deliberate inflation and driving prices up, messing with supply chains that just seem to randomly happen in factories and all the fun stuff we've been seeing, right? They're coming for the food. They do not want you to have the right to access food. And not only that, the type of food they want you to eat is very low in nutrition, if anything, right? And I'm going to come here to say this, that as a vegan, I am a vegan. Any other vegans here? And I want to shout out to my brother Paul and my sister Lauren for bringing the Ahimsa message here, because it's important. And I just want to say that there are those of us who are vegan. Me and Miriam actually started a group called Vegans for Freedom / Vegans Against Agenda 2030, because we wanted to not only wake up other vegans who are buying into this corporate faux veganism, Beyond Burger, Impossible Burger, GMOs, processed, all that stuff, but to tell other people, hey, just because we're vegan doesn't mean we're listening to Bill Gates or something like that. We have our own positions and our own ethics and values for that. So, but even with that, yes, they are trying to get you to eat bugs. Yes, they are trying to take away your right to eat meat and to have access to that. And even though I am a vegan, I believe in voluntarism. And I don't think the government has the right to tell you what you can't eat. So as a vegan, I will fight for that right, even though I think what you're doing is wrong. I'm just being real. That's what voluntarism is about. It's not about coercing you. If you want to have a conversation with me, we can, discuss. And I'll say, hey, here's how I feel about it. This is what I think about it. I think this is how we should rethink that. But I would never stand there and say, yes, don't control what goes on this person's plate for the good of the planet or for anything like that, right? So they're coming for the food. They're coming to get us. They're coming to us through the technology. This is why what Ramiro's doing is so important. And tomorrow, the entire day is dedicated to taking back our tech and getting off big tech. It's so important. It's been such a crucial missing element from these movements for so long. We're conscious in all these other ways, and then we're on our Google devices or our Apple, this and that. And, has anybody seen the nets outside of the Apple buildings where people literally try to commit suicide because they're working? Yeah, but everybody, how many? I'm not even going to say it. We got Apple in here. I'm just, like I said, I'm just putting things out there. If you feel a little funny in here, reflect on it. But if we don't start living in alignment with our values, we probably shouldn't expect to get anywhere better, right? The number one thing that inspired me from Samuel Konkin, who is the founder of this agorism counter-economics idea, which inspired so much of my work. And actually next year, I'm going to be releasing a biography about him. It'll be the 20th year anniversary of his death. And this book is heavily inspired by him. And one of the things he said is that the only thing that will lead to a free society is the consistent application of our principles. And in this case, for me, the principles are voluntarism, the non-aggression principle. You own your body. You are your own free person. It's wrong, immoral, unethical for me to try to force my way on you, right? Does that make sense? So if we want to create a world based on that kind of idea of voluntary consensual relationships, we have to live it. We have to actually practice it. We have to embody that and show the children that's the way. We can't tell them, don't do wrong to others and then smack them in the face when they're doing something wrong. And I'm not a parent, but I'm just saying, like, you're setting the example. And so, people compliment me on different things in the way I carry myself or my presence. None of us are perfect, but I am constantly trying to embed that better person that I aim to be. And I'm trying to lead by example for all of you. I'm still young. I'm committing to doing this for at least the next 30, 40 years of my life. And I'm sure I'll grow a lot and I'm sure I'll make mistakes, but I know that we can do some amazing things together, guys. Do y'all feel that? Okay, I'm really, really wrapping up. So the final attack vector, and remember, for every attack vector, there's a defense. Technology, above phone. Food, grow your own. Coming for the kids, unschool, homeschool, or if you can't do that, be there. Be the best mom and dad. Be the influence in their lives that they need. Learn what they're trying to put in their heads. Teach them. Plant seeds. I feel like my beautiful young brother here, who's 13 years younger than me, I've been planting seeds in his young mind since he was 5 years old. I didn't start saying, Dylan, there's a new world order at 5 years old, but I did start dropping seeds and saying, you're going to grow through life and you're going to see that some of the things your teachers teach you aren't right. They're not correct. You're going to see that adults don't know everything, right? And he's his own brilliant person now. And I'm thankful to play even a tiny role in that. But that's the kind of thing you can do. I try to do that with my nieces and nephews as an uncle. I take them out, I show them a good time, and I let them know, you're so beautiful. Do you guys understand how beautiful, amazing you are? Like, I want them to feel that. I want them to have that strength that I feel like I lacked when I was that young kid. And in some ways, I'm still healing that inner child, So we have to protect them. The final thing is emotional. There's a reason they locked you down. They want you to feel alone. They want you to be isolated. And what's the answer to that? Coming to the greater reset, getting together, ignoring what they say and coming together, right? So the kids, the money, the technology, the food, and the emotional mental attack. We have to defend against all those things. I probably should have gotten to this a lot earlier, but I'm just going to mention it. It's in the book. They have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. How many people are familiar or vaguely familiar with this? Super briefly, 1992, Brazil, Rio. There's a summit. Maurice Strong, the United Nations, they declare that it's time to save the planet from global warming. Then fast forward a few more years, we get told there's this Agenda 21 that the United Nations has created. And this agenda is about saving the planet from climate change. We're going to do all these big steps, and eventually it gets renamed Agenda 2030, which you guys are familiar with. And part of that is the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And the United Nations has 17 of them that they list. And it's like, they want us to believe that digital identity is a human right. So we need to get everybody a digital identity, right? These poor Mexicans who aren't in the system, no, we just need to get them a digital ID and make sure we can track them everywhere we go. We need to get all these poor Mexican farmers and these poor Indians. They're just not modern enough. So we got to get them digital IDs, and then that'll make their lives better. That's what their digital ID is, a human right. Now, many of you have come to realize that this is all garbage. They wear a mask, as our former speaker, rest in peace, Rosa Corey called it, the green mask, right? It's a fake, it's greenwashing. It's a fake environmental thing, but it's really about, I'm just going to be real, as you guys know, it's about technocracy. It's about control. It's about controlling every aspect of human life, telling you how far you can drive, when you can shop, where you can go, based on how much carbon you're using, right? It's a control scheme. That's what it comes down to. And as I talk in the book, this is going to be the next stage. The climate lockdowns are being discussed and talked about, right? So whether it's a lockdown because of a climate or the next pandemic or whatever, we've seen their tactics. Lockdowns, travel restrictions, coercion, forcing people out of their jobs, locking people in their homes, quarantines, all those kinds of things. They will use these tactics again. You're going to see them again. I'm not here to predict when, but you're going to see them again. Maybe it has something to do with that exercise Bill and Gates and them did just a couple of months ago. It's interesting thinking where we're at right now. If we went back to 2020, January 2020, We're right before things started. They did the exercise in October 2019, January 2020, we start hearing about things. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but for those of you who know what I'm talking about, Bill Gates and the usual people did another exercise nearly 3 years after Event 201, where they predicted another pandemic. And like I said, they're coming for the kids. This new pandemic affected the kids the most. Maybe there will be a mass campaign to try to get all those kids the shots that they didn't get before, right? We're going to see where it goes. The point is we need to be prepared for it. So they've got their SDGs. In the book, I propose what I call the ADGs, the Autonomous Development Goals. Just like everybody here is telling you guys, we need some direction. This is a beautiful movement, intersection of movements, but we lack focus. We lack direction. We lack plans, concrete planning and thinking. If you don't know where you're going to be in a year from now, and even among our beautiful crowd of super airy and flowy people, we got to start thinking where we're going to put our roots down and where we're going to be and what are we going to have? Because if you're just all over the place, you end up on the road and shit hits the fan and you have nowhere to go. You got no roots. You got no backup food put up. You got no community. That's something to think about, right? So the ADGs, I don't have time to read through them, but I'm going to mention a couple of them. And is everybody still with me? Okay, cool. This is where I hope it's not going to get too boring with this part, but I think this is important. Just like we created the Greater Reset because we want to counter the World Economic Forum. Well, I'm announcing the Autonomous Development Goals. They're in this book, and I want every single content creator that's hearing this to contact me. I don't want this to be Derek Brose's project or the Greater Reset's project. I want to co-create these ideas with you guys. I laid out what could be the basis. It's just 10 ideas, 10 goals, autonomous development goals for free people like us. And the ideas, just like the corporations say, oh, I support the SDGs, the UN SDGs, or some presidents and politicians say, we need to promote the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I want people to start putting a logo or a stamp on their site that says, I stand with the Autonomous Development Goals. Voluntarily, because it's all consensual, it's all voluntary. Autonomous goal number 1, promote access to non-state funded forms of education that emphasize voluntarism, self-ownership, mutual aid, critical thinking, creativity, and self-directed learning. Is that a goal we should have? Goal 2, or goal 3, create localized and decentralized food systems through community gardens and food forests and connecting communities with local food producers. This can be accomplished by making knowledge of permaculture and indigenous food systems available to the masses. That's what we're doing here. These are the kind of goals that I want to set. Here's another one. Promote, and this is a direct response to the you'll own nothing and be happy. Goal 8, protect the right of all people to access land. Protect the right to harvest rainwater, solar energy, and other resources that allow individuals to become self-sustaining. These are in here. You can download the book for free. Help me make these ADGs a reality. Please, we need plans. We need direction. And even if it's not this, help me come up with something better. Because if we don't know what our 2030 is going to look like, we're going to walk right into their world. We're going to own nothing and be miserable. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm doing everything I can night and day to make that not happen and to create an alternative path. Because when my young nieces and nephews get old enough to understand this, I want them to say, hey, Uncle Derek's been working for you. So now you have something else to go to. You don't have to go into that smart city if you don't want to. You don't have to put that chip in your hand. You don't have to do these things. There is another path. We've built something. We laid the foundation for you. That's what we need to do. My final thing, thank you, John, for your patience and everybody. My final thing, I'm living this. I'm not just talking about this. Those ADGs, I have a reputation for being out of the system and I do my best. And Miriam is my love and she deals with it, even when it's difficult for us to figure out how to move money around and do this thing because, oh, wait, this system's not connected to this thing. And, oh, wait, we can't use Uber anymore because we don't have a bank account. And just thank you, baby, because it matters. And it feels so good when we make it work to show other people it's possible. And that's why we're not just talking about this. We've been here 2.5 years, going on 3 years now. We found a piece of land that we are working on getting, and we've raised about a good amount of money between our 7 people, but we're still short of the money. And we're coming to the community, those watching, those in Texas, those here, family, friends. If you've got $5, anything, and you want to contribute to what we're trying to build, this isn't just about saying, guys, please help us buy land. We want this to be a place that can be a hub to teach these things. I mean, I've talked to John and Ramiro. I imagine this being like a Greater Reset boot camp. come to our land and we're going to teach you how to build freedom cells. We'll do some spiritual meditation work. We're going to talk about building tools, how to use permaculture, self-defense, all kinds of ideas, and then teach you how to go home and build your own conscious agora. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life, is build this network of free communities. I've never tried to raise as much money as we're trying to raise here. We're aiming for 200,000. We can do it with less than that for sure. But anybody who can contribute to that, we would appreciate it. And please come talk to me or Ramiro, or excuse me, Jess or Ethan or Miriam about this if you want to learn more. And I'll be talking more about it after the Greater Reset's over. But I'd like to play you guys that video one more time before I wrap up, if you haven't seen it. This is what the Conscious Agora is about. Hey everyone, my name is Derek Brose. For the last 13 years, I've been an activist and a journalist, and I've been looking for freedom. I've been looking for community, trying to understand how to create a better world. And I've done so many different things to try to do this. I've done protests and rallies and marches. I even ran for mayor, thinking that maybe this was the way to create the world that I want. And over the years, I've come to see that it's not really going to lead to the change I want, that if I want to see change in the world, I need to be that change. I need to create it myself and live it and embody it. And so in 2016, I started thinking about this idea of creating an eco-village called the Conscious Agora. It would be built around the ideas of individual liberty, permaculture, and mindfulness, trying to create a better world, be better people, continually evolving as people all around. And I've been working on this idea for the last few years, but it wasn't till 2020, when my partner Miriam and I moved to Mexico, that this project really took on its next phase.
Hola, my name is Miriam, and my desire to live in harmony with all life has led me to learn permaculture, to learn different healing modalities, and also organize community events like group meditations and yoga classes. Our decision to move to Mexico led us to Morelia, Michoacan, a beautiful mountainous region known for its vast bodies of water and its rich soils. This right here is where we found the land and future home of the Conscious Agora, filled with hills and springs and mountain water and delicious fruit trees. We fell in love. We looked for beautiful people who shared a similar vision, and for the last 2 years, we have been working together to strengthen that bond, that relationship. And now, these are the founding members of the Conscious Agora.
Hi, my name's Jess. Leading sea kayaking trips on the west coast of Canada gave me the opportunity to share my love for the wild and outdoor spaces and reconnect with nature. Now I'm excited to be part of this project, the Conscious Agora, that together with your help will live as an example of what's possible when we live in a holistic and symbiotic connection with the natural world and each other.
Hi, my name's Ethan, and I'm super stoked to be a part of this project. We've got a beautiful piece of land here in mind. It's phenomenal. For the last 10, 12 years of my life, I've really been longing to be a participant in something like this that's focused on individual autonomy within community, as well as earth restoration and regenerative agricultural practices, permaculture, and all that kind of stuff. I've been into it for a number of years now, and I've been following Derek's work for about 5 years now, starting in 2018. When he put out the invite to participate in this, I was super excited. I was like, man, I got to get involved in that. So here I am. They welcomed me into the project. The vision that Derek and Miriam have outlined of building somewhat of a template or model for other communities to emulate and build from, that's very unique. There's nobody out there that I'm aware of doing this. So with your help, we can make that possible.
With your financial support, the Conscious Agora team will be able to complete the purchase of our land. From there, we will build the Holistic Education Center, which will be our home for teaching permaculture skills, natural building, self-defense, meditation, and other practical skills that you can use to empower yourself. Our long-term goal is to take all of the knowledge we gain and all of the information we have and share it with you, so you can create your own Conscious Agora where you live. Together, we can create a network of free communities focused on building a better world for coming generations.
Thank you for your support.
Because of you, the Conscious Agora is becoming a reality.
There we go. I'm pretty sure I'm past my time, but again, if you want to check this out, fundraiser.com/consciousagora. Guys, we're trying to be an example of this. I want to co-create this world with you. I really hope you'll join me on this journey. You know how I end my talks. Please repeat after me if you feel inclined. I am powerful. That ain't gonna cut it, guys. That ain't gonna cut it. I am powerful. There's my people. We are powerful. We are beautiful. And we are free. I love you guys so much. Thank you.
All right. What a guy that Derek Bros. Give it up once more. Come on, come on, come on.
Thank you, Texas. Thank you, guys.
At D Bros Live Free. All right, I'm going to drop a couple sponsor spots, and then we got an incredible speaker coming up after this. You guys are going to love this guy. I know I do. But for real, love yourself. All right, so Weston A. Price Foundation. How cool is it that they're a sponsor of the Greater Reset? Those guys are old school. And it's great that wisdom, health, nutrition, you are what you eat. It all starts with the teeth for them, right? That wisdom is really making a comeback. It's awesome how there's this, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So they squeeze, they press, they put out the food pyramid. Now they got this new updated pyramid that has like Wheaties or something stupid like that. Healthier than eggs or something. Ugh. But they push, they squeeze, they try to force these shots. And then it just causes people to wake up to their deception and get back in alignment with what is really good for them, right? So I want to encourage you to check out Weston A. Price Foundation online, westonaprice.org, westonaprice.org. They have a booth here in Texas and a booth down in Mexico. Apparently they have volunteers all over the world. So we're super excited to have them on as sponsors, and we couldn't be more grateful. That's westonaprice.org if you want some really solid foundational health and nutrition advice. Okay, for our next sponsor, I'm going to bring up Mr. Joshua Hale here. So AUTONOMY has sponsored in the past. AUTONOMY is this incredible company. I'm going to let Joshua tell you what it's all about. But part of their sponsorship was to fund and pay Joshua to come down. He's the guy doing the DJ tracks in between the talks. He's going to be DJing tonight at the VIP dinner. He's going to be DJing tomorrow at the Zuby and JP concert. And he's one heck of a guy. He's actually somebody I confide in when it comes to entrepreneurial stuff because it's not easy at all. But why don't you give us the elevator pitch on what AUTONOMY is all about?
Thanks, John. My name is Joshua. I'm the executive director for AUTONOMY. I helped out Richard Grove, who had a curriculum, to digitize it and help create an online community. It's a 12-week course that's taught twice a year. Once you're in, you have lifetime membership because once you start a project, start a business, that's just the beginning. You're going to get bumps and bruises, as John knows. And it's great to have a community of 600 growing people that you can confide in, to get resources from, gain critical thinking skills, gain entrepreneurial skills, gain sales skills. I've been able to adopt all these myself, and that's how I find myself on stage talking to y'all and not freezing up. And I'll let the ad do the rest.
All right, thank you. We're going to do the ad later. Okay, cool. Thank you. Give it up for Joshua Hale, ladies and gentlemen. Customers like businesses that have skills. Anybody know that one? You guys don't know that one. All right, I think Derek's going to introduce me. I'm going to do a talk here in a second. Derek Rose. Back to Derek Rose.
All right, can we get the lights back on for a moment? Yeah, all right. This is the final talk of day 3. You guys enjoying this? You having a good day? Thank you for listening to my heart and being here for David Rodriguez and everybody else. Like I said before, guys, tomorrow we got Tech Day. We're ending on day 5, building free and conscious communities. You're going to hear from lots of people who already are living in communities and how they're approaching it. I want to mention again tonight here on this stage, after everything concludes, we're going to have a singing circle jam session on stage by our friend Lucas. I encourage you to hang around for that. Lots of other stuff happening. But for our final speaker, I just want to reiterate what I've said before, that John Bush has been a huge inspiration on me over the years, and we work so well together because we butt heads constantly. Now, that's just one of the added benefits of it. But the thing about John and I, and just the collaboration, I'll say, that, like I mentioned earlier, the first time John and I met was in New York City for 9/11 when I connected with Danny Penzella as well. And it was the first time I had any kind of radio show or anything. And I went to New York and I'm just interviewing people with my little phone outside. And John was one of the people willing to do that. And he's telling me all about volunteerism and he's introducing me to a lot of these ideas. And then we ended up having him come down to Houston to speak at the Federal Reserve March that I mentioned. And again, I'm going to mention it. Houston and the Fed, 2011, John Bush, find that speech. You will be inspired. You'll see what inspired me. And ever since then, we've been collaborating. We've had the pleasure of, as John said, being listed together in government documents for talking about freedom cells. That's always fun. But overall, I know that we both have this vision of creating a better world and creating this alternative network. And honestly, I don't know if I would be thinking as big as I am if it wasn't for John's inspiration and this idea of trying to think of big picture, not just settling for what I could do in my local community, which is important and was beautiful, but thinking in terms of the big level and what we've created with the Freedom Cell Network. So John, thank you for that inspiration. Guys, John's gonna tell us all about how to opt out of the CBDC control grid. Please make some noise for John Bush.
Thanks, Derek. That means a lot coming from you. And it's just really special for me that my ideas, most of them aren't original. I just pick and choose from here and put a little humor in it. But it's really meaningful for me that my ideas have inspired other people that have done big and great things. And so I never lose sight of that. I just want to thank you, Derek, and thank every single person here for giving us your attention, because we are doing this for you guys and for the future generations to come. All right, well, let's start by thinking big. I want to share what I have come to learn is my purpose in life. My purpose is to create an environment where the free people of the world, including you and you and you and you, can exist in an environment with political autonomy, where we self-govern, where we're able to live our lives according to our own values, our own ends, our own principles, and we're able to enjoy things, and we're able to contemplate philosophy and frolic through the fields of daisies with our children and our little dog yapping at our ankles. That's what I'm all about. I like to think big. I like to push the envelope, and I like to project into the future, to contemplate what type of world do we want to live in, what type of person do we want to be in the future, and then ask ourselves consciously, mindfully, in the present moment, are my actions, behaviors, and thoughts in alignment with that person that I want to be or that world I want to create? It's a wonderful exercise. I highly encourage you guys to do it. I do it all the time, and often it's like, whoa, that is not in alignment with where I'm going, but it's a check. It helps you to recognize when you need to shift your behavior. But the challenge is there's a lot of people in our movement and in the general public that have no destination. They haven't done the exercise, the thought experiment of projecting into the future. Like Derek said, like some presenters have said before, everybody's just focused on the present moment, which is good, of course. We want to be in the present moment, but we want to be in the present moment with a mind towards creating a better world and a better life for ourselves. And one of the big reasons why people are so focused on the present moment is because of all the struggle, right? People are struggling to make ends meet. People are struggling to pay bills. People can hardly think about how they're going to set their kids up for success because they are still putting together the money to pay next month's rent. And I don't like that. I've been in that situation, Lord knows, and I'll share a little bit more about it. But I think it's important for us to take control of our lives, to have a roadmap for our day-to-day actions, because when we don't have those plans, when we don't have those goals in place, it makes it much easier for us to get taken for a ride. I've used this analogy. I want each and every one of us to be a horse with blinders on. So we're like just laser focused on our goals. This springs up over here. There's graphene oxide in the vaccines. Ah! What else do we got? These doctors, COVID ones, are suing each other and fighting over here on Twitter and blah, 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 blah. It's like, man, I ain't got time for that shit because I'm so laser focused on my goals, on creating a better life for myself, on setting my children up for success. I don't even bother with it. And I want the same for you. Let us do what we can to step out of the reactionary paradigm that so many of us find ourselves trapped into a space of proactivity. That is when we are consciously in control of not only our lives in the present moment, but it sets the stage for us to create an incredible world for ourselves in the future. And that is the work that we're doing here today with the Greater Reset. I'm going to talk to you today about central bank digital currencies. My buddy Brad's doing. He's good, that Brad. Today, I'm going to talk about central bank digital currencies. And I honestly feel that my life has been leading up to this moment, up to the challenge. And as I shared before about Paul Wheaton, I don't see problems. I see solutions. Even with my life and my business and my family, let's face it, crap happens. What's more important than the crap that happens is how we respond to the crap, okay? And so I have had a long and arduous life. There's been a lot of tumultuous times and a lot of struggle. And I feel like because I have adopted a mindset of anti-fragility, I leverage all of those weaknesses and all of those problems and all that adversity in order to improve my situation. You guys heard this term anti-fragile? I want to use it as an opportunity to kind of set the stage for the work that we're going to do here tonight and the work that we're going to do here collectively. Someone that's anti-fragile, there's problems, there's risks, there's adversity, there's struggle, but rather than falling victim to that stuff, they leverage it to strengthen their resolve, to learn. And so to set the stage with what I'm going to talk about today, the powers that wish they were have presented us with a gift. They intend to implement a central bank digital currency surveillance slavery system that would prohibit us from being able to trade freely amongst ourselves, that would greatly increase their ability to control us and manipulate us into doing things we don't want to do. They've given us a wonderful gift because I know for sure that it's going to light a fire under each and every one of y'all's asses in order to do what you need to do in order to opt out, which is what we should have been doing all the time, regardless of their agenda, because there's a better way to live. There's better systems to organize ourselves with. We can abandon the centralized, abandon the coercive, abandon the corrupt, and replace all of that with decentralized, voluntary, and transparent systems. I'm going to talk a bit about that today. To be honest, I don't even know why I have this sheet here. This is my speech. There's all this stuff bouncing around in my head. I'm like, I'm going to get that down. I'm like, no, you just always freestyle the whole thing. And it ends up being cool that way anyway. So we're just going to freestyle with you. But I do have a framework that I want to present this talk in. And oh, by the way, here shortly, I'm going to make this huge announcement. How many of you guys are on my email list? Everybody should be, unless you already unsubscribed. I hadn't even hit you that hard just yet. Wait until tomorrow. How many of you are familiar with the Live Free Academy empowerment framework? Anybody lay out the 4 pieces for me? First is mindset. Second piece is, I need to do a better job with this. I take full responsibility. Second piece is strategy. Fourth piece, community. And the last piece, massive action. How many Live Free Academy members are in the room? I take responsibility. One thing I learned from Grant Cardone is that successful people take responsibility for everything that happens in and around their lives. Every single thing. When crap happens, like it may seem like a smooth, flawless production. I know that's y'all's experience at the Greater Reset. But we sure are putting that concept of anti-fragility to the test with this event. But every time, even if it's someone else that slips up, I ask myself, what have I done to contribute to that slipping, and what can I do in the future to avoid that slippage? I take responsibility. I encourage you guys to do that. Remember, successful people take responsibility for everything that happens in their lives. Successful people also don't think things happen to them. They think things happen for them, because in every bit of adversity and struggle, there is so much more wisdom that can be gained from it. And when we can pull that out of the ether and implement it in our lives, we can improve ourselves. In fact, it's like wizardry. A while ago, I tapped into this where I just became so conscious and mindful of my thoughts that I was able to interrupt a negative thought pattern and just get it out of there. And it's really made quite the difference in my life. I'm actually going through a pretty difficult thing right now. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to let you into my personal life that too much, but it's extremely stressful. And I find myself being grateful for it because it's forcing me to do some big changes in my life that are going to benefit my family, my children immensely. And so if you could tap into that space, I promise you it's going to make a huge difference in the quality of the life that you enjoy. And if you're an activist, like I know each and every one of you are, root word action, that wisdom, that anti-fragile nature will help you in turn to create a better world for the future generations to come. So I wanted to lay out the Live Free Academy Empowerment. We're going to go on all sorts of side quests tonight with our time. So if you're like, I thought he was in the middle of making a point. Don't worry, 99 times out of 100, I'll wrap back right around and you'll think I was doing it on purpose. So the Live Free Academy Empowerment Framework, 4 parts: mindset, strategy, community, and massive action. I'm going to present the Live Free Academy Empowerment Framework in the context of what can we do to overcome the CBDCs. I've already shared a bit of the mindset piece, and there's a reason why it's first, because it's the most important by far. Because I know that I can teach the skills, I can teach the strategies, I can teach you how to get from here to there, but more often than not, I believe the service that I'm providing to people that are in my audience, my clients, is helping them to shatter those limiting beliefs, because we're our own worst enemy. For example, I could teach you how to set up a Bitcoin wallet, how to do it well. I could teach you real well, and I could break it down in very simple steps. But if your child logs onto your computer and screws stuff up and you're afraid of that happening again, so afraid that you won't even start, or if you feel insecure about your ability to do technology because you tell yourself you've never been good at technology. I can hardly even operate Zoom when you do those meetings, John. Then you're the one that's standing in the way of your progress and your success. So I can only take you so far. You got to do the rest of the work. And that's why the mindset piece is so fundamental. It's so critical. It's so important. Oftentimes, I think that people don't act because of those insecurities. So for example, when we encourage people to exit the cities, buy land, and build community in the country, there's folks that are struggling financially. And rather than face that, I don't have a lot of money right now, I can barely afford rent, how can I come up with a $20, $30, $50, $100,000 deposit to get a loan, a mortgage? Rather than get real with that problem and focus on the solution, they say, well, Klaus Schwab said we'll own nothing and be happy, so they're just going to take our land, right? It's a trick we play on ourselves. And I want to encourage you to become conscious and mindful of those tricks, so when they arise inside of you, you can kick them to the curb and clear the way. I teach my staff a lot. We're trying to close a sponsorship, and I'm like, so did you follow up with them? Did they respond? What did they say? Well, I sent an email. They haven't responded. The folks that work with me know that really grinds my gears, because at the end of the day, email is cheap and it's really easy to ignore, which is why if you unsubscribe from my email list, you might just get a direct mail piece. But I teach my staff, look, this is the destination, this is the goal, this is the outcome that we're after. And if an obstacle is placed in between you and that goal, it's your job to figure out a way around it or over it or under it, right? So did you call him? Did you get the number? On and on and on, right? And this is what we need to do in our lives, because at the end of the day, we got a lot of big work ahead of us. I like to talk about the work that we're doing in 2 different ways. One is a reaction to the problems we're facing. One is we really got to work hard, because the technology exists now where these clowns, these Klaus Schwabs, the Bill Gates, they can create a situation where it makes it impossible for the people to rise up. Been studying this New World Order thing for 20 years now. And back in the day, it used to be, we really got to wake people up so they don't create this New World Order. It was some far off thing that, we talked about, we speculated. We saw the police state and the surveillance state get built, and it's slowly getting bigger and bigger. But their dreams that they talk about in the Club of Rome and Committee of 300 and all these secret society roundtable groups, it seemed like some far off thing that, hey, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Fast forward to the COVID days. And now we find ourselves in a situation where it's like, wow, we're on the precipice of a literal prison planet, to borrow from old Mr. Jones. I want to thank Alex Jones. I actually caught his documentary 9/11 Road to Tyranny back in the day on cable access because he lives in Austin. I actually used to prank call his radio show. I was inspired by somebody that would prank call and say, Alex Jones, please. Alex Jones. I was like, that's funny. This guy's crazy. Look how mad he is. Yeah, bro. And then a couple of years go by, and I see one of these movies after 9/11 happened, because I was like, everyone's like, where were you on 9/11? Honestly, I used it as an opportunity to sleep in and not go to school. Didn't care. I'm not going in. And my mom's like, Mio, these planes crashed into buildings. I'm like, oh, what time is it? I'm already late for first period. You're probably not doing classes. It seems like a pretty big deal. Go back to sleep. And I saw this documentary. Really blew my mind and got me started on this path. But look, let's give it up for Alex Jones, right? Love him or hate him. He's gone off the deep end a few times here and there, but the dude was way ahead of the curve, and now it's pretty clear what he's been talking about for quite some time has come true. Were there boos out there? It's okay. It's not perfect, but you got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, come on. All right, so see, now I'm coming back. 2 different ways to think about the world we live in. One is the reactive way, and I mean it. The digital ID system, along with vaccine passports, along with social credit scores, and the central bank digital currency, is this perfect system of enslavement and control. And it all was fast-tracked with COVID. And you know, that Vax passport thing, early on in the COVID pandemic, pull the YouTube feed up. We had a TikTok video that got taken down because I said pandemic, we suspect. Come on now. Shout out Mickey Willis, creating new words that stick around and get censored. So I realized early on in all this COVID stuff, even before the vaccine was released, thanks Donald Trump, he's going to save us all. He's still like the ego on that guy. He just can't let it go, even though people are literally dropping dead and dying suddenly. A literal drop dead situation. So I realized early on, like, this is basically just a big marketing campaign for the freaking shot. The whole pressure and fear and control and manipulation. And then when the vaccine passport system came out, it was like, oh, maybe that's the end game, right? Well, really, we learned about the end game blueprint for global enslavement. Have you seen that documentary? Back to Alex Jones. I came to realize in my history, my evolution of studying this world government, New World Order stuff, that really what they're after is creating an environment where the cycle of revolution stops and they stay in power, which has to do with why they're so hell-bent on reducing the number of the population, because it makes people easier to control when there's not so damn many of them. It's why they want to destroy the United States of America, because you can look at it multiple different ways. You can say it's all BS, American dream, blah, blah, blah. Or you can be grateful to exist in a situation where we can own firearms, where we can have a meeting like this, where many of us would get locked up and put in a gulag if we were on the other side of the planet, right? But what they're trying to do is end the revolutions. But what we're going to hit them with, which has been tried a few times in history, is the evolution. We're going to opt out. We're not going to try to take over their system. We're not going to storm the Capitol with our boy Ray Epps. No, we are going to create a better system so we don't become the very clowns that we're trying to toss out, right? This is the reactionary way, and I want to light a fire under your rear end, because if we don't step up our game, if we don't double our efforts, if we don't commit ourselves to the animated contest for freedom, our children or our children's children will find themselves in a world where they don't have the choice that we have right now. And I got to be honest, a lot of the stuff that we're proposing, this whole exit and build thing, it's not illegal. In fact, there's pretty much no risk involved at all. So I want everyone to step out of the fear space. That's another one of those things. Join the Freedom Cell Network, then I'll be on a list. They'll come take us all away. Good luck taking away 35,000 of us, 36, 37,000 and counting, right? But here's what I say also. If we're all on the list, then the list is meaningless. I also see, that's right. Come on, let's say some provocative, get on the list. I'm on every list they got. I also say, just like with a gun, it's better to have one and not need it than to need it and not have it. It's better to be a part of the Freedom Cell Network and have a solid crew of 36,000 people that got your back and to not need them than for crap to really go down. And you're like, dang, I wish I would have joined the Freedom Cell Network, but I was too afraid. And that fear goes back to some sort of insecurity. What is it? I've never done well meeting other people, so therefore I'm not even going to try, but I'm going to make up some bullshit excuse in order to feel good about myself because I can't just face the ugly feeling whenever I got to do the work. And we all should be focusing on the work. Circling back. That's the reactionary paradigm. The proactive paradigm, which is what we need to spend more of our time in, is crafting, creating, building a world that many people have never experienced. Coupling the technology, the permaculture, all of the above, the homeschooling, the intentional community piece, and building a world. I was going to say a world that's worth living, but this world sure is hell worth living in, huh? Give it up for all the beauty in the world, right? In spite of all the craziness, look at all these amazing people, meeting people. The kids are playing, running around. It's just great. So this world is worth living in, but I would like to experiment with all sorts of new cool stuff. And what I like to do, rather than focus on the fear and the stuff we don't want, which will only attract more of that into our lives, we focus on where it is that we want to go. And I want to go to a beautiful place where we've dealt with all this nonsense, where we've carved out a little piece of political autonomy, a little paradise on earth, and we're able to sit back and pontificate about the finer things in life. That's right. Want some good craft beer, huh? Ah, that's good Chiba, good Mota. There you go, Derek. To Mexico. All right, so that's the stage that I want to set, and at the end of the day, let us be pulled towards a better future and not focus so much on the negativity, on the fear, on what Klaus Schwab has to say. We are all perfectly capable of building the world that we desire, and who's to say that they have to have a monopoly on creating the future? Why do they get one, right? Why can't we get one? After all, we outnumber them. So let's focus on the world that we want to build. Let's identify particular areas in our lives that we are feeling weak on or that we're strong on. If we have some weaknesses, some gaps in our freedom game, let's build that up. Let's find people that are stronger in those areas. And if we have strengths in a particular area, let's go help those that are struggling to figure stuff out. Mindset, mindset, mindset. Now, before I go on, I just want to share why I believe I was kind of just like my whole life has been coming to this. I've been into alternative currencies for quite some time. I learned about the Federal Reserve from old Ron Paul. Give it up for Ron Paul. It's the Constitution. So I was all about Ron Paul 2008, but in between 2008 and 2012, I learned about Samuel Edward Konkin and agorism. I was like, I'm not getting into that trap again. And I realized like this is actually a massive data aggregation campaign so they can put Senator Rand Paul in the U.S. Senate. That's what it was, really, if you want to know. Of course, it woke people up and got people excited. But anyway, I learned about the Federal Reserve and Austrian economics from Ron Paul. And as I was studying it, it was just such a challenge to wrap my head around. You mean the money is debt? What does that even mean? What money? I thought money was like, had value and we buy stuff with it. It's debt? Like if I had a credit card, what's that? They can create it out of thin air? How do they even do that? They can lend out 10 times what they have on their deposits. Money's created when you take out a loan? What the hell? And I remember trying to wrap my head around it. I was just like, it just doesn't make sense. So why go through the brain struggle to try to figure it out? And I always remind my wife of that too. She's like, how could they possibly do that? People in our personal life or a little drama that we're dealing with. Don't they know? Blah, blah, how could they possibly do that? I was like, it doesn't make sense. They're crazy. Okay. But anyway, I started learning about the Fed and I was like, okay, this is a problem. And Ron Paul's like, let's audit the Fed. Let's pass a piece of legislation in the very halls of Congress that started the Fed, right? There was some treachery. There was some deception. You know, back in the Ron Paul days, I got shunned for being a 9/11 truther. And they're like, you better put your suit on. We're trying to bring the Republican Party back to its roots. That was part of the slogan for the 2008 campaign, the Rally for the Republic up in Minnesota, a big celebration. Bring the Republican Party back to its roots. I'm like, what the hell? What roots are that, right? It's better than the Democratic Party's roots, owning human beings. Now both parties own and control human beings. And so I was like, that's not me. I came into this world because I saw a documentary by Alex Jones on 9/11. I got the documents right here. And so I'm like, we're all talking about the Department of Homeland Security. I was around for the Department of Homeland Security getting created. I was, quote unquote, awake. It's all varying degrees of awake. You never really wake up until you reach nirvana or something like that. So let's go sit underneath the Bodhi tree out there. And I saw them create the Department of Homeland Security. I remember the John Warner Defense Authorization Act that gave the federal government the authority to indefinitely detain human beings. And I'm like, guys, we're talking about what came out of 9/11. Everybody's in fear. Everybody's willingly giving up their rights. We're getting patted down after this stupid underwear bomber that was led onto the freaking plane by some department, some State Department official. And we can't talk about 9/11. Are you freaking kidding me? So I always figured out a way to work it in. But anyway, that was a realization. Another lesson I came up with that. If they're going to be turned off by me questioning the official story of 9/11 with hard-hitting facts, I don't want to be in their crew anyway. I want the people that are like, dang, you really think that happened? Let's look deeper. Not the people that cower from it because they're trying to win favor with the freaking local political party. But nonetheless, I learned about the Federal Reserve. I started doing politics. I tried to reform the Republican Party. I got escorted out of the Texas Republican Party convention floor because I was marching up and down the hallway with the "End the Fed" sign. I get the hell out of here. Yeah, get them. And we started doing politics because the Ron Paul campaign ended. And we're like, oh my God, there's 1,000 libertarian people. Now, most of them are like constitutional conservatives and liberty light, I should say. And then some of them were like a lot of folks in the Libertarian Party. Let me take a quick jab at the Libertarian Party. I think the Libertarian Party is mostly comprised of people that couldn't cut it in the Republican Party and couldn't get anywhere. So they're like, I can run for office. Sorry if you're in the Libertarian Party. Exit and build. Let's go. So I did the political thing. And like I said before, I came to realize that while we were achieving what seemed as victories, they were really empty victories. We were simply slowing the growth of tyranny, not creating real freedom. I discovered Samuel Edward Konkin, and this whole "End the Fed" thing was going on. Audit the Fed. And I was like, you know what? Like Derek said, if we want to end the Fed, we should limit our use of Federal Reserve notes and help to proliferate alternative currencies. So me and the ex-wife, we would go to the farmers markets with silver dimes, and we would ask all the farmers market vendors, hey, would you guys consider accepting silver dimes in exchange for your veggies? You mustn't be like, silver dimes? Why would I have silver dimes? It's only 10 cents. This is $12.50 for this head of lettuce. That's the Austin Farmers Market. You know, at the Austin Farmers Market, outdoors, they had made you wear a mask, right? Give me a break. That's why we're going to do our own farmers market here in Bastrop, right? Exit and build. And so we came across occasionally some folks that are like, oh yeah, silver dimes, anything we can do to upend those jerks in the Federal Reserve Bank. We're like, dang, there's our people. I remember the farmer's name, Pura Finca Vida, which is like, I don't know, make a translation on something good life, something like the pure life. So we were already on that wavelength even before I learned about Bitcoin. And I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, because the fathers are along for the journey, right? There's some sympathy, pregnancy pains there. Get them off stage. It's a woke agenda. Bastrop County Democratic Party. Before my daughter was born, I was already telling my parents, guys, well, I'm not going to give them a Social Security number. Just not going to do it, because even back then, I was focused on what can I do right now to set the stage so my children can experience freedom that I never thought possible. And even though it's hard and it's a challenge, and I hadn't been able to claim them for a deduction tax credit on my income tax, I knew that I exist in order to create a good situation for them. So maybe they carry on my work, maybe not. I don't care. I love them to death, and I don't want them to give away 20, 30, 40% of their value to the very institution that we oppose so much. My dad said, you know, John, whenever they come of age, they're not going to be able to get a bank account. What are you going to do about that? And this is before I learned about Bitcoin. I said, you know, Dad, I'm pretty confident that the free people of this world, by the time they come of age where they need a bank account, they're going to have created some kind of alternative currency that a ton of people are using. A year or so later, I learned about Bitcoin. I was like, boom, there it is. Right? But here's the challenge. And let me relay this back to central bank digital currencies. Hope you don't mind, Derek. I'm going to go a little bit over my time. I'm keeping track of the clock, though. We won't keep you here till 9 o'clock. Maybe 8:30. Early on, I learned, here's another lesson. You guys, you should be, so I know you guys are conscious and mindful, but the whole meditation thing, I don't meditate. I really need to meditate. In fact, when I learned about the concept of mindfulness through Buddhism, right? I was studying Buddhism. I studied Buddhism because I was a jerk to my kids and because my marriage was falling apart. Look, there's my daughter. She's like, that's to put it lightly, Dad. She's all preteen, diva'd out and stuff. I started studying Buddhism because, like, man, I'm a freaking mess. I really don't like the way I feel when I raise my voice to my kids and they cry. It's really hard for me. I don't want that for them. I don't want that for me. And so I learned the concept of mindfulness, and I was like, oh my God. Being present in the moment, free of judgment and analysis. You're just there. And it really clicked for me. And so maybe it was the ego or arrogance. I'm like, I don't even need to meditate. I figured this mindfulness thing out. In fact, I figured it out so well, I struggled to sleep. And last night, the night before, and the night before that, I didn't actually doze off until probably 2 or 3 a.m. And that's how a lot of nights are for me. So it's a blessing and a curse to have a mind that just fires and fires and fires and fires. But the point is, I should probably practice meditation because I know it would benefit me in that way. And it would greatly improve my fatherhood, me being a husband to my lovely wife, and the work that I do in this world. So shout out Miriam, because she's been hosting these Freedom Cell meditations, and there's nothing more important. But I want to encourage you, speaking of mindful of this, not that buzz. Quick tip for mindfulness: if you find yourself wandering, just become mindful of the wandering and bring it back. Okay? So those of us that are conscious and mindful, we can really do incredible, wonderful things, and we can find those nuggets. I thought I was going to lose that train of thought, but I found it because I'm a master of mindfulness. Where'd it go? Give me some credit. When you become conscious and mindful, you can always find lessons in life. And yes, I'm going to bring it back to the actual lesson before we went on that side quest. Back in 2011, this guy named Ethan Levita, who was an agorist, a living agorist, he was like, hey, John, have you heard about this Bitcoin thing? It's this alternative digital currency. It's not really that big right now. It's mostly popular with like computer geeks and a lot of our little libertarian anarchist circles. Well, you can actually mine it. It's how you verify transactions. You can mine it on your laptop. Would you like me to set it up for you on your laptop so you can potentially generate 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes? It's like $100,000. Boom, you could just crank those out all day because there's a lot of 10 minutes in 24 hours. And you know what I said? You know, I'd really like to research it first before I get involved. Sounds kind of weird. So what's the lesson? And I wasn't as conscious then as I am now. And in 2, 5, 10 years, I'll be saying I wasn't as conscious then as I am now. And then in 20 years, I'll be saying I wasn't as conscious then as I am now. And in 20 years, when we're in the FEMA camp, no. They don't even need a FEMA camp anymore. It's just going to be a digital prison that we all opt into. Not us, but that people opt into. Isn't that crazy? There's like FEMA camps, the 10 FEMA regional zones. The lesson was, let us always have at least a little bit of mental capacity and not be so damned overwhelmed that when opportunity comes a knocking, we can open the damn door. Okay? That's a writer downer right there. Always have at least a little bit of mental space and time to lean in on an opportunity, because I didn't, right? Nonetheless, fast forward. Kids still don't have social security numbers. We've built this incredible network of 36,000 people. Bitcoin is alive and well and thriving. It's perfectly a possibility to exist without ever needing a bank account. Derek Bros and his lovely partner Miriam are doing it right now. And by the time my kids come of age, I am absolutely confident they'll be able to exist outside the system, and the federal government can kiss my ass. All right. Okay, so that's the world I lived in. That's the world I grew up with. I believe that the stage has been set for me to do some cool stuff when it comes to pushing back on the CBDCs. I learned about Bitcoin, I learned about cryptocurrency, extremely resonated with me. I was so hopeful and optimistic and naive that I thought Bitcoin was going to end the Fed. I underestimated them because now they're leveraging digital currency. They're not going anywhere. Rather, they're becoming stronger and more powerful. So, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do? All right, we've talked a lot about mindset. Let's talk about some strategy now, okay? Here's how we can overcome the central bank digital currency system. Here's how we can create an environment where we're not subjected to the whims of these clowns who we don't know, who we can hardly relate to, that have so much influence and power over our lives. This whole stupid egg thing now. I think we got chickens. If you have peace, we'll be able to check them out. Thanks, Brad. Give it up for Nomad Brad, ladies and gentlemen. Rocking the camera. I just want to say I feel absolutely blessed to have such a wonderful crew of people around me that help so much. And everybody often gives me credit because I'm the face of the whole deal. But I would be nothing were it not for my wife, my kids, my crew, the volunteers, Brad, Ryan, all the people that make what we're doing possible. I am so grateful to have them in my corner. Yeah. Okay, so the strategy. Central bank digital currency is coming. What are we going to do about it? This is what happens when you give John 45 minutes to talk. He just blah, blah, blah. Not my speech here. Well, let's just ignore it and go around a bunch of circles. Maybe someday we'll get to the point. All right, here's what we're going to do about it. I have been brewing on this. And I've been aware of this central bank digital currency thing for quite some time. In fact, the very first time I heard the concept was on NPR, National Propaganda Radio. One time I was talking to this liberal Democrat guy, and they were like, yeah, I heard on NPR. I was like, oh, yeah, it's propaganda, you know? And it's like, no, it's not. It's not like Fox News. I was like, it's the exact same thing as Fox News, except they got you under a spell instead of the Republicans being under a spell. Give me a break. I knew NPR was propaganda when I heard this poll back when the whole Syria thing was going on. It's like, we polled our listeners. Hi, this is Terry Gross. Life is just so pleasant when we're governed by our inferiors. Don't you just love it? We conducted a poll of our listeners asking them, do you think it's a better idea for Barack Obama to go into Syria with ground forces or for Barack Obama to do an air campaign? Those are the only choices you're going to give me here? Okay, I see what's going on here. But I heard this NPR story, and it basically went like this. First time I hear about CBDCs. Can you imagine the convenience of sending your children off to college, not having to worry about them spending their tuition money or their rent money on beer and partying with their friends? Central bank digital currencies give us the ability to ensure that the money you give them is only spent on books, tuition, and food. Isn't that great? How convenient is that? Here's another thing. We're all like, oh, the normies are going to just accept everything because it's convenient. Let us become conscious of when we give up our privacy and freedom for convenience, because God knows I am somebody that does that all the time. It's why I've resisted the above phone, because I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going at the speed of light. I can't stop to figure something out. And then my wife gets one who's not very tech savvy. She's at the house setting up for the VIP dinner. So I'm going to slip that in there. She knows it, and she figured it out pretty well. So shout out Ramiro Romani's above phone. But I'm a victim of that too, but I'm mindful. At least I'm aware of it. Let us at least become aware of our shortcomings so we can hope to work on them and come up with a plan to figure that stuff out. But this central bank digital currency thing is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, but when. So I've been thinking real hard about what we can do. And I feel very confident that I'm surrounded by a group of really incredible, powerful people that are empowered, that believe in themselves. Do you believe in yourself? How strongly do you believe in yourself? Come on, let me hear it. Yes. Because in all honesty, that is all we need to succeed. We need to believe in ourselves and we need to believe in each other. Because they've been putting all these limiters. You know, when you're driving, me and my buddies used to get all drunk and smoke blunts and listen to Houston rap. Shout out Houston. And I remember my buddy had a Yukon, big green Yukon that was all banged up. And you would go down Loop 1, also known as Mopac in Austin, smoking a blunt, drunk, listening to rap music. I don't know how we survived. God. I never got arrested. My friend that was driving the car did get arrested, not in that instance. And you know how you're driving, and then you can't go further than 100? Drunk, stoned on weed? It's because there's a governor that limits the acceleration. I want you guys to recognize the governors in your minds and take them off so we can reach heights in our lives that we never thought possible, because we're all capable of achieving so much more than we are. And I feel confident that we're going to do that individually and collectively because you all just told me that you believe in yourselves. Don't let it be just something we're all hyped up because we're around all the freedom people. Take it home with you. Believe in your ability to do great things. Believe in your ability to overcome your limiting beliefs. Believe in your ability to crash through the fear and create greatness in your life, because it's critical, and the future generations that are yet to come are depending on us doing just that. Woo. All right, so I've been thinking, what do we do? What do we do? I got the crew, but what are we going to do? What's the strategy? So I put something together. I want to invite you to participate. I'm going to queue up Rebecca C. to play the video, and then I'll tell you a little bit more what it's all about. Let's see that little video there. Central bank digital currencies are on the way. It's not a matter of if, but when. The only question that remains is, will you sit idly by while the CBDC system is erected all around you, or will you do everything in your power to opt out? I'm John Bush, and I've made it my life's work to help people just like you create real freedom in their lives. Now, generally, I'm an optimistic guy, but the CBDCs have me very concerned. But I got good news for you. February 6th through the 10th, I'm hosting the free CBDC Opt-Out Challenge. I'll be joined by special guests Derek Bros, Jack Spirko, and others.
And get this, we just added a couple more speakers to the lineup. We're going to be joined by James Corbett of CorbettReport.com and Richard Grove of AUTONOMY.
We'll provide you with concrete action items and strategies so you can opt out. So head on over to cbdcoptout.com and sign up for free today. The more of us that participate, the more successful we'll be. So go to cbdcoptout.com and together we'll opt out of the CBDCs. Boom! All right, here's what we're going to do. Each and every one of you are going to join me, everybody watching online, everybody in Mexico, and everybody on my email list, and all the email lists we can join together with all these really cool people that are doing big, major things in this world. We're going to join together January 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Every day at 11 a.m., we're going to go live. We're going to join together February 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we are going to work together to opt out of the CBDC paradigm. We're going to go live 5 days in a row, 11 a.m. Central. It's completely free to sign up. There's no secret. There's no trick. There's no gimmick. That's the challenge about giving away things for free. You got people are like, yeah, right. You're giving me a free ounce of kratom. All I got to do is pay shipping and handling, especially this audience. Because we got trust issues. It's a great marketing tip. This audience has very, very, very major trust issues. So you got to go above and beyond to earn that trust. And the best thing you could do is be somebody that acts in integrity and is in alignment with their word. I hope I've done that. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going live. On day one, we're going to set the stage. We're going to talk about the mindful piece. I'm going to break people down. I'm going to say, look, guys, they don't have control over your future. We have every bit of capability to create a better world. We're not going to just abrogate that to Klaus Schwab and these clowns in Davos. We are going to be in the driver's seat of our lives. Then we're going to bring on James Corbett. James Corbett's going to present the ins and outs of the central bank digital currency system, and he's going to show us the vulnerabilities that we can exploit to carve out our little piece of monetary sovereignty. Then on the second day, I'm going to be joined by Jack Spirko. Jack's a jack of all trades, pun intended. So I can talk about this, that, and the other. But the reason why I invited Jack is because he's a really good teacher. What does he say? He takes complex stuff and gives you the redneck explanation of it. So me and Jack are going to hold your hand and help you to set up a Bitcoin wallet. So that's what I've been doing for the past several years. You know, I made a ton of people rich by advising them to get Bitcoin way early on. In fact, I've been telling people to get a whole Bitcoin. I say, you got to get to the left of the decimal point. It's a whole Bitcoin before it's too expensive. This is when Bitcoin was $600. You got to get to the left of the decimal point because it's going to get harder and harder to get a whole one. You got to get one. Bitcoin's $10,000. I'm telling you, start piecing it together. Get yourself a $500 worth, a 10th here, a 5th there, whatever. Go, go, go. It was 20,000, 30,000. Kept saying the same damn thing. And by golly, now it's like 22,000, 21,000. A lot of people think it's out of reach because they don't know you can buy $200 worth, buy $5 worth. You buy $5 worth every day. You can buy $100 worth on the 15th of every month. Teach you how to do that. We're going to hold your hand because I want to reach as many people as possible with this. And I know that, first of all, people have those limiting beliefs. I'm not very good with technology. And they're like, they're not good with technology. So how many excuses can I come up with not to get started? They're going to shut the internet down. It's going to be hacked. How many years have to go by without Bitcoin being hacked and shut down before you got to let that one go? It's been like 11, 12, 20, 30. They're going to shut it down. They're going to make it illegal. Yeah, well, it's been around for 40 years now. Come on, give me a break. That was my old man voice. My old Texas yippee skippy voice. Yeehaw. Another side quest. All right, so we are going to hold your hand and show you how to set up a Bitcoin wallet. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. It's the first cryptocurrency. It's the only one I would encourage people to invest in. Did he just give investment advice? Yes, I did. But we're not only going to teach you how to use Bitcoin, we're going to teach you how to use Monero, also known as XMR, because Monero is a privacy crypto that obscures the transactions. There's no way for Sally Mae, Freddie Mac, there's no way for the IRS, the Department of Justice, all these bozos and three-letter agencies, they are none the wiser if you send this to this guy and they can't know who sent whom, what to whom, blah, 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 blah. We're going to teach you how to use it. We're teaching in a very slow, methodical way. It's a 5-day challenge. There's going to be time for you to figure it out. Then on Wednesday, we're bringing on the one, the only Derek Bros, and we are going to make sure you're onboarded to the Freedom Cell Network and you know how to make the most out of the community that we've built. Then after that, I'm going to be joined by Rebecca Bush. Rebecca Bush will be joining us and teaching us about getting out of the city, because I strongly believe that the smart city agenda is a big piece of the digital ID, the panopticon society, the 5G interconnectivity, Internet of Things nonsense. So if you really want to experience freedom, you got to get out in the country. But also on that day, we're going to talk about counter economics. Now that we've got our Bitcoin and crypto wallets, we're going to talk a little about alternative currencies too, barter, trade, whatever. Not a big fan of the whole time bank concept, but if that's what you want to do, the important thing is to limit your use of FRNs, to create the relationships and the trade networks now preemptively, so you're not scrambling to catch up when they say you can only buy this with this and you can't even use the system if you're not vaccinated. That's what's coming, folks. I studied their strategy and the way that they push people to do things they don't want to do. They make life difficult for you. They squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until you finally say, "Uncle, give me the damn shot." There's so many people. I watched it go through my family. My dad held out so strongly under the pressure from my family until my uncle died of COVID, with COVID. I don't know, but he died. And that's finally when the pressure became too strong and my dad gave in. Sorry if they're watching. I'm like sharing their medical stuff. Isn't it weird that everybody talks about everybody's medical stuff now? Just thought of that right now. Quick story. Derek went 10 minutes over, so my time would end at 5:10. I'll try to keep it right towards around there. This is a quick lesson. I shared it before when the stream went down earlier. Before my uncle died, he and my dad got in a real big fight, and it was over masks. Because my uncle back in the day, I used to argue with him because he was a George Bush W04 fan. He had a W04 bumper sticker. And then he went like extreme 9/11 truth. Now he has an Infowars.com bumper sticker. Still on the truck. Even though he's passed, it's still on the truck. But he like went pretty extreme with this whole freedom thing. And he believed that the virus wasn't real. It was all made up. So when he caught the virus, oh, wait. I guess viruses aren't real either. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that one. But at the end of the day, it doesn't affect me very much because I'm focused on exiting the building. My 2 cents on that debate. I think it would have collapsed his worldview if he would have realized that maybe he was sick with COVID. So he stayed at home. He didn't go to the doctor, and he only ended up in the hospital when he was taken from an ambulance. And I remember having these strange mixed feelings because he was so aggressive towards my father that I had a really bad taste in my mouth towards the guy. And that was the last of our relationship because of this stupid fight over masks. I want to remind you that there's more important things than being right. There's more important things than forcing your views upon your family members. What's most important is that heart-to-heart human connection. Let's not lose sight of that because I did, my uncle did, and I don't get that opportunity to come back to a good place with him. All right. It was a side quest if I ever heard one. All right, on the 4th day, that's going to be in the middle of my little promotional thing that we spread out to the world. But that's good because people need to hear it. The 4th day, we're going to learn about counter economics, and we've been onboarded into the Bitcoin space. We joined the Freedom Cell Network, and now we're going to take the time to proactively build out those relationships, create those economic connections. Whenever we need the plumbing problem to be solved, we're not going to go to Joe Plumber in the yellow pages. We're going to go to the black and yellow pages. Those are the anarcho-capitalist colors. The black and yellow page, it would have killed if you guys knew what it was. We're going to go to the black and yellow pages, and we're going to go to the Freedom Cell Network directory. We got an Agorist directory build. We're going to go to the other directories, whatever. The point is, we all need to be taking proactive steps right now to engage in financial transactions and commerce with people within our own community, people that we know are going to buck the system and say no to the CBDC thing. We don't want to be playing catch up, learning to use a Bitcoin wallet, or going to scramble to find Eastern medicine doctor or whatever that can do business with us without the CBDCs, right? On the 5th day, we're going to be joined by Richard Grove. He's a total genius when it comes to goal setting and strategic plans and all that stuff. He's going to help us tie it all together. Now, get this. It's my intention to get, let's just go big. I want to get 100,000 people to register for this thing. Because you know what I learned? When you have a free thing, you have 100,000 people sign up, only about 20% of them show up. Here's the thing about money, too. You know, in this community here, a lot of people are like, how could you charge for something like that if you really care about the cause? To which I reply, what do you do for a living, and do you give it away for free? But here's the deal. Here's something I learned. Those that pay attention. Case in point, Exit and Build Land Summit 1. We got 28,000 people to sign up for that. When it came time for the live stream, there's about 1,000 people watching. Do the math, 1/28, I don't know what the percentage of. The people that paid $127 for the virtual immersion pass, about 40% of them showed up. Those that pay attention. It's an investment in yourself. You're going to be more committed if you throw some money in and put some skin in the game. All right. My goal, because these challenges, there's like health challenges and marketing and business challenges. There's always a community, an online community. So you sign up. We invite you to a community. We drop tasks. We take pictures of the progress we're making. We all become brothers and sisters and connected around this common goal of opting out of the CBDC thing. So I was like, well, I'm not going to put the community on Facebook. That's what everybody does. Telegram could be cool, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. It gets lost in the fray. It's like, bing, bing, notification. See Travis in the back. He'll help you sort that stuff out. So the community online platform that we're going to use for the challenge is freedomcells.org. So it's my full intention to get at least 25,000 people to register. Again, maybe 100,000, and a good chunk of those guys are going to sign up for the Freedom Cell website. So we're killing 2 birds with 1 Agorist stone, and I'm really excited about that. So it's my intention to hit the 37,000, just boom, 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 boom. It's going to be a thing of the past, all right? That's really what it's all about. It's something that I believe is going to be very impactful. It's something that I believe will play a major role in circumventing that agenda. Remember the digital ID, the vaccine passport, the social credit system, and then controlling the money. Money is so important whether you like it or not. It's the life force of an economy. It enables you to do things that you want to do. It helps you to fulfill your wants and needs. And I got to tell you, I'm sick and tired of being part of this whimsical system that's constantly up and down, that's stealing wealth, stealing value, stealing time and energy from people, and using it to fund stupid wars in Europe, stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with us. I'm over it. I am so over it. I don't want it for myself. I don't want it for future generations. We have to do the work today in the present moment so we can completely abandon that slave system. And to tie it all back to what I've shared before, I am grateful for Klaus Schwab. I'm grateful for the Federal Reserve Chairman. I'm grateful for the diabolical, scheming, megalomaniac SOBs that have brought us here today to have this conversation, because without them, we would be sitting around twiddling our thumbs and we wouldn't be opting out of the CBD system. So I hope you join me February 6th through the 10th. You can go to cbdcoptout.com and sign up for free today. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I guess I stay on stage. We're going to wrap up. Yeah, I still stuck with my 45 minutes. How about that?
Hey, great job, guys. Make some noise for John Bush. Everybody here. All right. It's been another beautiful day. We really hope everybody at home and everybody in Texas and Austin has learned some things. I know we had an action-packed morning and afternoon. Please take these ideas, carry them with you. For everybody at home who's asking online and everybody here, we are going to be releasing all of these talks for free, as we always do every year.
Derek's going to edit each and every one of them. Thank you,
I
Derek.
edit all of them.
Thank you.
I will be editing all of them and editing the Spanish talks. We're going to release the Spanish editions and the English versions of every single one of these talks within the next week or two. If you follow our website, follow our email list, you will get them on our Odyssey channel. So thank you, everybody, for another beautiful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
10 a.m. See ya. Peace.
Thank you.